uh, yeah, it's become necessary, and this is the way of the future, with respect to shooting, a lot of pre-recorded materials, streaming, so many challenges, and we've all come together, hoping to learn from one another. And today is no different. Today is one day we're going to talk about live video, well, not live video recording, I think it's video recording and post-production with editing, etc. Right. So before we begin, we wanna have a word of prayer. I'll ask Brother Dishon, can you please pray for us?
Yeah, not a problem. Father in heaven, you are still Almighty God. You are still sitting on the throne. And for such a time as this, you would have called us and given us a charge to be a part of the process and the personnel that would help take the gospel to the far-reaching ends of the earth. So we ask that you be with not just the folks at Tunapuna, not just the folks at Taparigua churches, but every other person that would be a part of this stream, every other person that would be a part of this Zoom, every other person that would be in a position to benefit from the knowledge that you would have blessed us with over the years. May it be that it will be used for your honor and for your glory, even in Christ's name and for Christ's sake. We humbly pray with thanksgiving. Amen.
Amen. Amen. This whole training endeavor, it's not just about technical. Yes, it's technical training. Yes, it's a quite extensive training. It's well in depth. It's a lot of courses on different things. I'm looking forward to many of them. Learning more about it, bettering your craft and your skill set. But at the end of the day, these are highly specialized skill sets, and it's going to take time to develop. It's going to take a lot of effort on all of our behalf to better our craft. But what motivates us, as we said from the get-go, it is doing this to promote and to push God's message out there, and doing it in such a way that it's excellence in service. So we just want to always keep that in the back of our minds, the front of our minds rather, that, hey, this is a lot of work. It's sometimes a little technical. It may be a bit above our heads. We're going to try a bit to kind of speak to a level where we can all understand. But at the end of the day, we thank God that we have the opportunity to learn. A lot of these things you can learn a lot on it, and these concepts on YouTube. But one of the key challenges we're going to talk about, and all of us in churches, we are facing this, is the issue of no budget filmmaking or low budget filmmaking. I know we're all there, with respect to using limited camera gear, personnel, we don't have the resources. So we need to be able to better use what little we have. But I dare say to us all that we have one really valuable asset here, and that is God is with us. And he is famous in doing a lot with very little. A lot with very little. And with his mighty hand, we can achieve much. So today we're going to talk a bit about video recording, and also post-production. So what I'm actually going to do, we're going to have a little rapport. Stephan and I are going to have a little rapport about it. Video production. You guys can chime in, ask questions. And at the second half, we're going to actually open up a timeline and show you, just go through a bit about editing a bit. I'm going to touch on it a bit and some of the challenges and some of the things you can prevent. There's this term that we use, and I'm sure you've heard it before. We'll fix it later. We'll fix it in post. They always use that term. So we're going to talk a bit about those things, and we could ask questions along the way. All right. So we're going to start first by talking a bit about video recording. Now, last week, Stephan and I, we spoke about, live streaming. And that's a type of video recording. But hence the reason, the name, live streaming, you are streaming live. And in a sense, you are editing that live, right? You are choosing the type of shots and everything that goes out to that individual when they are home. The person who's choosing the shots, they are, to an extent, they are editing live. Now, with post-production, in terms of video recording, where you can have pre-recordings, You know, in our churches, I know you pre-record for different things, whether you are pre-recording a testimony or you're pre-recording special music. Some of us, sometimes we pre-record sermons. What again, you pre-record in churches. Narrative stuff, whether you want a little dramatic series, something you want to do, Pastor need to record pre-recording right now. There's song service. So even though there's pre-recording, a lot of the concepts and the principles we spoke about in live streaming, it's there. But there's one key difference, and the key difference is that it's not live. With that understanding, you approach it differently. All right, you approach it slightly differently. But the concepts of being prepared, Stephan, I know that is big, you know, that is so important. Because one of the things being no budget and low budget is that it's people's time. It's people's time. When you ask singers to come, when you ask people and you're coming to them to interview them for a testimony, when you ask pastors to come and pre-record, it's your time and it's their time. And time is valuable. We're not like Hollywood where we have a trailer out there for them. So while we're recording or while we're setting up equipment, they could be there in the trailer, you know, sipping on some nice cool drink. We don't have all of that, right? It's people volunteering their time. So we need to be mindful of that and respectful of that. So the concept what we spoke about in terms of pre-production still stands for video recording. So Stephan, I want to bring you in here to talk a bit about this preparation, this pre-production. We spoke about the different types of pre-recordings. You could have testimonies, you could have special music, you could have sermons, and each one of them would have a different approach, right? So talk to us about a bit about, I know I always heard this term, you know, I'm sure people hear about scripts. You know, do you need a script? And scripting is important because that's part of pre-production. But for us in church, do you need a script like for a testimony? I mean, sister so-and-so, we're going to record them. You know, should we know what we're going to record? Should we send them? So talk a bit about that.
Right. So, good afternoon once again. I know some people would have joined the chat or joined the meeting a little late, so I just send in greetings to those who would have now joined us. So, planning makes the difference between whether or not something looks polished or whether or not something looks like it just happened. There are a lot of instances where things happen on the fly, and sometimes by the good grace of God, it's passable. But again, from last week and even the weeks before that, the trending thought is that you have to be intentional. You have to go ahead and map out what it is you really want. So you would see the one thing, apart from the one thing that is a very big plus with the pre-recorded stuff is that you have the ability to do a second take. When you're live, the space, the environment is way less forgiving because John Public seeing all your mistakes. If it is somebody hit a bad note or somebody forgets a line or something happens when you're not live, you have the ability. So sometimes you're given a testimony and sometimes somebody might break down and cry. Now it's one thing somebody break down and have a slight moment, but then it has sometimes you have to stop recording because the person just can't catch themselves because they're talking about the death of a loved one or something, and you might have to stop and then start back when they better compose, etc. So the importance of having a script or having an outline, even if it is you don't have a script, like let's say for example, is a testimony you're talking about. I like to know aforetime what it is we're going to shoot so you can plan to shoot. If it is somebody giving a testimony and you don't have a clue as to what they're going to talk about, you don't have a clue as to which direction they might be going, it leaves you now with a lesser ability to dictate your shot sizes. It hinders your ability to be creative on the fly almost because you're And when I say on the fly, I mean while you're actually doing the shooting. So a testimony, you might not really need a script for it, but it always is better if the person knows what it is they're gonna be talking about sometimes. Sometimes you get a more spontaneous response if it is they don't know what you're talking about. So you know, as the director, have to be pointed in what type of response you want from this person. So they know, all right, we come in to get a testimony. We want you to talk about something that God will for this week or whatever the case is. So it's not really necessary for a testimony so much to have a script, but it's always good to plan even when you're going and shoot something.
Definitely. We've all been there, I'm sure. You know, again, because we know the outline of our programs, we know that we have set times for testimony. And who hasn't been in live church where you know when you give brother so and so this microphone, it is going to be a long one. I know we have some individuals at our church. You know, we have to always be mindful when we're coordinating. Hey, brother so and so, remember, we need to give others time to testify. All right. So again, we always, even when you're shooting, you need to inform people. Hey, it's a testimony. We're coming by you, and we want a testimony on this. You know what? During COVID, it's COVID testimonies. How has God been good to you? Give us that. So you give them some insight. You let them know, hey, it's only 2 minutes. You know, trainees, we're not going to take 2 minutes. We're going to take sometimes 5 minutes. All right. So even if it's 5 minutes, you need to make sure, because sometimes when you're interviewing them, you realize they talk about a lot in the beginning, and it's only about a minute about the real meat of the substance. So sometimes while you're going out, you as the interviewer, you need to have in your mindset, hey, I know this is the questions that I want answered. It's going to talk about maybe it was a flood or something, and you're going to talk to them, you know, how they experienced it, family issues, whatever it is, whatever the question is, you know in your mind that you want this question answered. You know, the strange thing about it is that sometimes we think that testimonies are, how to put it, we should let people just go with it. And that's true. Sometimes you allow people, and I heard that question before, where's the room for the Spirit, and allow people to talk, but again, they may talk all over this place. So you know you had that conversation. So Stephan, talk to us a bit about the conversation you should have with the persons before. I'm talking about time. I'm talking about location. I'm talking about when they are available, you know, and time of day, different things like that, Stephan. Talk a bit about the importance of that.
Right. So it's critically important, as I said, pre-production. Once you have proper pre-production, it makes it so much easier to have a proper production, and then it gives the editor a lot less headache, a lot less, wow, how am I going to work with this footage type of scenario to be involved in. If it is, you know, a fourth time you sit down with the other persons on the stream team, the pastor, the persons from the different or specific department in church, and you order the program, then you know now what content you actually need to capture. If it is, you know, well, all right, it's communion. We want to have people give testimonies. We know we have room. So different churches do things differently. Some churches have a better testimony now, they do another part, a better testimony, they do another part, a better testimony. Some people leave all the testimonies to the end. Different people do their thing differently. If it is virtual and you now say, well, all right, we're going to get 6 testimonies. How much time in the program is allotted for testimonies? And then now you decide, well, all right, well, if it's 15 minutes, then 6 might be an odd number to dissect, or so you want to be intentional. You plan out your stuff, and then you decide, well, all right, let's go by sister so by so, because I hear she had a testimony. She had say so in the Wednesday night Zoom or whatever the case is. But you talk to the person. You plan out what it is when you're coming. You do your, simple as it is, you want to do your weather checks to see how the weather will be looking that particular day, that particular week. So you got average, all right? So let's say, for example, you have it in your mind, who that's seeing this I heard have a real nice layout on the front. The lawn does be looking so nice. XYZ, we're doing this outside. But you do so and you pull up on your weather check and you see Monday, Tuesday, bucket of drop rain. Wednesday, Thursday, sunshine. Friday, chances of a shower. Now you know, all right, I want to do this outside. So which are the days I would want to put on the table? We could come either or.
Yeah.
And then you definitely keep weather as a critical part to consider, because even if you're indoors, the rain ponging on a rooftop might cause you to be in a position where the audio is not usable.
Definitely.
You know, you don't want to go and sit down by sister, whoever, and you tell the next person I'll come in later that evening and you schedule your stuff, but when you reach by the first one, the rain pouring so hard you can't even start to shoot because you're hearing it on the rooftop. So you be very intentional about simple things like the weather.
And
Then when you reach,
Again, I just being real. I just being real. You know, when we had to plan out some of our testimonies to go by some of our members, you know, as you said that word intentional. You know, I remember, I know some of our seniors, when you go by them, it's not just, we know that an interview should be about 4 minutes, 5 minutes, sometimes, you know, to set up time. So again, you give enough time to set up time. So you say, okay, it might take for us maybe 15 minutes. Make sure that, you know, you set up the equipment, you set it up, everything. So I put aside maybe 20 minutes for recording. And because we're free, I mean, in terms of, you know, we are busy individuals, you check and see when you are free to shoot, and you try and coordinate with that person. But when there's a certain individual, like some of our seniors in church, when you go by them, they want to show you the garden, they want to give you something to eat, something to drink, and you're managing time. So you kind of know the person, so you're going by from before and say, okay, I know the average person, they will take 20 minutes because I know I could set that up. When I go my sister, so-and-so, brother, so-and-so, I know it's going to take me half an hour. So you need to plan, have those discussions, know the individuals, have those discussions. And again, on the day, just try to be on time. And I always like to create a buffer in between, a safety, you know, because it takes time to drive to another location, all these things. So boy, Stephan, intentionality, knowing the individuals, communicating with them, I think that is so important. That is so important. Right? So location.
It's critically important. Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of locations, what are the things, even though, as you said, you know, outside, inside, any other things we should look about? Let's say, you know, again, we need lighting, you know, what is it when we go to the location? What sound, all these different things. Again, as technical persons, our mind should be ticking. We're not just going to do the interview, but how we're going to capture it. So there are certain things we need to look out for. So again, elaborate a bit on what we need to look out for.
Yeah. So the thing about it is, whether or not you're going to shoot a testimony, whether or not you're going to shoot special music, if you're going to shoot reenactment, a mini drama or some type of thing, I strongly recommend you do a site visit before, as far as is possible.
Mm-hmm.
So the cinematographer, the videographer, cameraman, whatever you choose to call them, coupled with the director, coupled with something called continuity, but we'll get to that. We're dealing with location and the importance with equipment and things. So you want to be able to go and see, because you might tell yourself, we ain't need no lights, you're using natural light. I show everybody a light in the house. But you'll be surprised to know the difference proper lighting and good lighting makes. Kivonne could tell you about when we were shooting the Family Life series, the difference it would make just to put a little kicker light in a corner behind a couch, how much it changes the whole mood, the whole feel, the whole look of a particular scene. You know, and sometimes we rush in and we just want to get this scene done. We just want to get this done. And then sometimes you don't know the know-all or the where-all about proper lighting and things. But you have to be in a position where you make sure you have lights with you. Yeah. And even if you're in a position to afford and you can get reflectors for outdoor shooting and that type of thing, to be able to bounce the sunlight or to be able to bounce the light to fill certain areas for the image to get that level of separation from the
Yeah.
background. Even when you're going and shoot, somebody might say, all right, we will do it in the kitchen. But how does that space lend to the story? There's something called the mise en scène, which is everything that is within the frame. You're going to give a story about a testimony about the car in the garage and or the car and, how God worked it out that you get you with the car and whatnot, but you're going in your kitchen to talk about that. When you have a garage with the vehicle in it where you could sit down and so you have to choose location based on what you're going to talk about.
True.
You wanna have this space look in a particular way. So even if somebody brings you home by them and they're home untidy or whatever the case is, sometimes people might have clothes thrown over the couch or a towel, they rush on the bed and they just drop it there, or the child come out and drop it there, and you have a big towel dripping over a couch rest in the middle of your interview. So you watch within your frame, the frame that the camera is picking up, and you see all the content that is in that frame. You watch out, how does the content in the frame impact the story, impact the interview, impact the narrative, especially if it is what you're going to be doing is like a mini dramatization or some kind of thing. You want to pay very, very keen and special attention to the type of equipment you need and checks and balances. Don't just wait until you reach by sister so by so to now check the mic after you put it on. Say mic check, come on, mic check the sister, and it's not working. Always test the equipment from even the night before. Test the equipment from even the night before. Charge your batteries from even the night before. Check and make sure the cables and none of the cables shorten. Check and make sure you have spare bulbs for your lights. A lot of the lights, new model lights now is LEDs, so they really have spare bulbs and that type of thing. But make sure they charge, make sure you have all your equipment properly well packed, and you do another check through the morning before you load up your vehicle. You reach the location, you get a spot to set up your equipment. So you know, all right, this corner here, I'm stacking everything here. If the people and them had dogs, know you're stacking your stuff because those dogs peeing on your equipment, liquid and electronics don't work. You don't want Rufus biting up a light while you in a corner not using a particular light. You want to know where you're resting your stuff. You don't want to rest it down in a corner. Next thing you know, ants take over your whole bag of equipment. Have a whole nest of ants you're going on with. You want to be intentional in every single thing you do. You want to be in a position where you have your checklist. You go through your checklist before, when you reach on your location, you go through your checklist again. You know, all right, these are the questions we want to ask sister so by so. All right, we know we have this musician coming to do. You find out from before how much songs you're coming to do for us today, sister so by so. Are you going to be singing any a cappella? Are they going to be with tracks? Is it that you're coming with a musician? So you, even before, you say, oh gosh, I need a quarter to quarter, boy, I didn't know you was coming with a guitar, man, or, you know, you be intentional. You find out before, is the person coming, they're coming with their own guitar, they're expecting to use one of the guitars at the church. Is it that they have their own keyboard, we need to swap out the keyboard, they will be able to use their own, you know? So you find out all these different things aforetime, so that when it actually comes to shooting, you could shoot. And not now be trying to figure it out. Oh gosh, but we have no extra battery. So the mic and them, the battery and them dead from the last shoot. All them things dead already, but you have extra batteries, be it AA or whatever, you know, you have the correct size and type of battery. And you're in a position now to focus on getting the task at hand executed rather than trying to figure out how we're going to get this done with what we have, because you didn't work with what you need, you know?
And again, Stephan, again, we can't underscore this word being intentional. This is so important. You know, sometimes when you go by different locations and I hear people saying, you know, but that's how it looks. You know, you have the option. You have the option. You have control of the camera. You can ask Sister so-and-so, well, I don't think this is the best spot to do it. Remember, you have the creative vision, not Sister so-and-so. Right? You have the creative vision, and your job as the film person, the film technician, the filmmaker, is to capture their performance, their testimony in the best way. So she might say, you know what, she wants to showcase, in the kitchen, but as Stephan rightly said, that might not be the best spot. You know what, I think outdoors. And then the limitations with your equipment. Stephan talking about lighting, and many of us, we may not have lighting. So what you can do, all right, well, we're going close to a window. I'm going close to a window. So I'm going to try to choose the best capture. You have the choice. They might like a certain spot, but that's close to the main road, so we might have to go in the backyard, right? Where it's a little quieter. Because you don't want to hear all this noise, and again, you're sitting down and you're editing and say, oh boy, if only. It's too late. It's too late. Sometimes you don't have another opportunity to go and take that, and it's wasted time too, when you could have just made those decisions from early. So what we're talking about here is preparation, about being intentional, about double checking your equipment. These basic things that we mentioned last time around, you need to check, you need to be in control. You are in control. When it is, you're asking individuals to come to your church, and again, depending on the length of the number of recordings and the length of them, you might be there for the entire day. And yes, we're working on no budgets, but I want to talk about something, Stephan, here. I want to talk about craft services and explain to us about the importance of craft services. Yeah. And what is craft services?
So craft services, otherwise known as the catering and the food that would be there for crew and cast. We take things for granted sometimes. We take it for granted that we ain't gonna be that long. It's just an extra 15 minutes, but sometimes 15 minutes turn into 3 hours. And somebody belly in their hand, their belly griping, them and grumbling. They can't focus on delivering. They can't focus on executing whatever it is. We have to, especially if it is we're not paying people to do things, we have to be mindful. Even if it's a juice, a bottle of water, a sandwich, something cater for. We have something to offer these people, and then because at the end of the day they're giving of their time. Now, if it is you have your thing well organized and the timing is as such where it's just a touch and go, they're not coming straight from church to come by you for 3, 4, 5 hours, and it's a situation where well, all right, they're leaving from home, they might have had something to eat, it's just really literally 10 minutes, however, that is totally different. But if it is you go in and carry out a crew to shoot for the day, or a few hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, whatever the case is, 3 hours, you want to be in a position where you could say, you know what, let's budget to feed these people. Let's budget to feed these people, because whether we paying them or not, part of the payment or part of the thank you should ideally include something to hold them until they reach where they're going. Something to help them keep focused. Yeah. Something to help them keep focused, something to help them feel like, right, I could go again. We're working, we have a nice gelling going on here. Everybody, all cylinders firing, we going. But you have to remember that your body, just like a vehicle, you cannot run a vehicle. You run in taxi, you can't tell yourself, oh, cool, I catch a nice rhythm, we're going. I'm making as much trips as I can make. You have to stop to refuel the vehicle. You know, and that is like your body. Craft services is the technical name for it in the film industry. But you need to be in a position where you have food or something to hold people out to get the thing accomplished, to get the mission accomplished. You can't tell me you have people in your church from in the morning straight through till AY time, and unless you tell them a 4th time, hear what? Please walk with something to eat, because we really have no budget to provide anything to eat. Even if that is the case, at least and this is what I keep talking about, communication and the importance of communication. If it is you let somebody know a 4th time, here's what. Unfortunately, we don't have the budget to provide meals. So please, if you could just walk with something to hold you through until we finish. That common courtesy goes a long way, because sometimes people come, man, them care when me come and do all of that and feed me. The least they could do is feed me. And they to their dismay and distress, it have nothing for them to eat when they reach.
And let's be mindful, eh? Let's be mindful, eh? Again, remember, people are coming, let's say on church. Like for us, you coming out, let's say 7:30. You would have eaten breakfast earlier. You're staying, you're working, and it's after church. You want to stay some pre-recordings, and sometimes you may have AY. That's a long time. So again, I'm saying in preparation as far as possible. And it does something more than just feeding people. It builds, it's a way of team building, where you can sit down and share a meal, cast crew, you build it. Because a lot of work is a lot of work, and that's so important, to build that togetherness, to build that team. And again, we know it's limited budgets. We're not saying a little testimony, you go in and you need to get food. That's not what we're saying. But like how Pastor Dixon today, he mentioned to me that for the entire day, they're recording song services for their crusade. That's a lot of recordings. A lot of recordings. So having simple things. I mean, for us in the tech room, water, bottled water, have that for the guys at least, you know. Some bottled water, you're outside there in the sun and it's hot, you know. Thankfully, sometimes when you go by the good members, especially our seniors, you know, they give you some juice, they give you this, Morbi, whatever, you know, they give you this. But these things, again, as a person, you should walk with your water. I'm saying that too. Don't want to depend on the members to give you the sweet bread and this and that. But again, you should prepare. Prepare because you will get hungry. You will get tired, you know. So again, preparation, craft services, that's so important, right? Planning out your shots. Again, you know what you're going to do. You know, hey, this is the camera I need to carry. This is the equipment that I need to carry. This is the sound. It's 2 persons. I'm going to interview this person, so I can't use one mic if possible. And I have 2 cameras. I could put 1 camera facing another person. Another, again, plan out equipment. It's a dramatic series and it's a bit longer, you know. And Stephan, I could testify of this about equipment checklists. I remember, Stephan, I had to go, I think it was film school, and we had a project, and I was all the way up in Lupino recording. And every piece of equipment, yeah, I went up. And you know what I forgot, Stephan? The camera tripod plate. It's a little thing. The plate for the tripod. The plate for the tripod. You think we could have started shooting anything? No. Because that little thing.
Plan on going handheld.
You understand?
that tripod is of no use.
Yeah, that tripod. So again, planning, double checking, all these things are important. So you want to move on now to shooting and the actual day of shooting. And again, the principles which we spoke about last time, you know, are call time for crew and call time for cast, individuals who are doing that. You know, we want to talk about that a bit. You know, again, we spoke about a equipment checklist, but again, call time, Stephan, talk about that. Who should come first? You know, yeah, cast, crew, depends.
It is critically important, and I would say relevant for the crew to be there first, because you want to be able to see the location. While you might have done a site visit before, you want to go and make sure everything is still the same way that you left it, because people like to redecorate. You might go and see something one way, you're going back telling yourself, well, I'm going to use that couch in the corner. So when you reach the couch, nowhere to be seen in that particular corner. They rearrange the room. And that is something you need to be very cautious with, like for continuity's sake. Like, let's say, for example, you're shooting a series. Wherever you go in, you have to let the people and them know, please and thanks, do not redecorate anything. Leave this, your living room to use. Make sure and leave the living room as it was, right? So back to the original question. So it's really important that the cast is there after the crew, because you don't want people to get tired. You don't want people to get hungry. You don't want people to get restless. Yeah. Now you organize whereby people come when they are needed. So let's say, for example, as Kivonne was saying, it's going to take you 20 minutes to do this particular interview. Somebody's coming, all right, so we know that brother so is coming to do one song. Sister so is coming. She's accompanied by a musician for one of the songs. She's going to do tracks, whatever the case may be. Your budget time with a little buffer room so that people don't have to come and twiddle their thumbs and sit and be like, hey, boy, I rush out the house. Because some people don't play by time.
Yeah.
You don't know. I always say, and I'll say it again for the people who didn't see or have the opportunity to watch the ones before this. if I always say, if even you do not have respect for your time, at least have respect for the time of the person who is waiting on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
If at least just have respect for that other person time, because you do not know the domino effect that you running late would have on what that person lineup of shooting people, how many different takes they're supposed to take with different people, how they're going to throw that off. You do not know if that person had another interview to leave by you to go and do, and this person leaving to go to work, and you promise them, no, 20 minutes, I'll be there long before you have to get ready for work or whatever the case is. And you know, either it causes that person to miss an interview because the other person respect them and they're not going to run late for work, or you're going to have that person with a late on the record now because they started the interview late or they rushed down the interview just to leave in time, just because you didn't reach on time or your interview didn't run on time. So it's really, really critical to be respectful for time and person. So the crew come out first, go through your checks and balances, make sure everybody know their roles and function. You have your little briefing with them even before the cast come out.
Definitely, and I want to talk a bit about that, the importance of having that rundown.
You have your physical rundown as far as it's possible. Enough copies made for all the persons who need a copy to have a copy, so that everybody could be on point with it. Same thing like the live broadcast. Be able to go through the shot list. All right, guys, this is what we shooting first. This is what we shooting second. This is the order in which we shooting it. A lot of times, you find people want to do a skit to a mini movie or something, and you say, all right, there's the script. We're going and shoot in order. But you find now you might have to shoot 5 scenes in the kitchen, and 2 in this gallery, and 1 in the living room. Does it make sense to set up the lighting in the kitchen, do 1 scene, break down the lighting? Now, if you ain't paying nobody, is different. But yet still is not so different. You want to be able to respect time, because the time is going to take you to break down the lighting in the kitchen, go so to shoot this particular scene, go in the bedroom.
Because scenes one time. Again, it doesn't have to be synchronous, because you're going to edit later on. So
it makes sense to get your light the kitchen, you know, the lighting in the kitchen is perfect.
All the scenes in the kitchen.
Shadows, it have no thing, because you will end up with problems with continuity. The time of day will change if it have sunlight coming in and you go back to shoot a scene that's supposed to be in the same space, but yet still everything could get thrown off just because you didn't shoot everything that's supposed to be in this particular space one time. Get it out of the way. Get it out of the way. Even if it is a call for wardrobe change, I prefer to shoot location. This is a particular thing we shoot in the kitchen, we're doing all the kitchen scenes. This is a particular thing we do in all the bedroom scenes, or whatever the case is. If it is not everybody on the same page and you can prefer, all right, we have on this outfit, we're going to shoot the different scenes with this, but it ideally is best if it is you're done light. Why light one location 5 times and hope to get the light in the same all the time? You're giving people additional unnecessary work. You understand?
Go
ahead.
I want to come back again to the respecting time, because in respecting the time, I want to talk about, you know, sometimes you have individuals coming to sing. I see someone from Tacarigua saying that everyone today has been taken care of, food and water stuff. So Tacarigua is doing a good job with your recordings today, man. So
nice. Bless God for that, man.
And that's out of respect. But individuals must also have a respect for the crew also, the technicians themselves. And let me explain to you. Sometimes departments, they come and say, hey, we need to record this, and they call the technicians out. And when they do call the technicians out, you realize that they are not prepared. They're not prepared. And being not prepared, I mean, it takes, okay, we need to practice. I always say to them, now is not the time to practice. Practice should have happened before. Right? Rehearsal should have happened before. When you come on the day, it's to execute. Now, mistakes would happen. We are all humans. We understand that. But it shouldn't be that you're now trying to figure out what to do. And so respect goes both ways. We as technicians too, we can't sit down and say, boy, Stephan, you think we should do this shot or that shot? And we trying to figure out what camera angle, and the crew, and they're not in their trailer, I mean, the car's not in their trailer, they're in the hot sun, they're waiting for us to give them direction. Respect needs to go both ways. We need to receive. So all this can be eliminated. We call them before. We tell them exactly what it is they're doing. We tell the crew, hey, this you on sound, you on this, you on that. Your job is to focus on that. So on the day, as far as possible, you execute. You execute what is supposed to be happening. I want to talk a bit about direction. Now, direction, you can have directing in music, in pre-recorded music. Is there a need? I know there's a need for narrative stuff where people are acting and stuff and you directing. Do you need somebody to direct performances when it comes to special music? Can you give us some insights, Stephan?
Yeah, it's critically important because remember, you want to do your best to craft an experience for the viewer. You want to do your best to have the viewer have the best experience with the material that is in front of them. You want to do your best to have a distraction-free.
Steph, they just come in and they sing it, they stand up one place, and they sing we are accustomed doing that in church. What you talking about cameras? So the camera just capture that. Why you have to tell them? So what it is you're telling them? What it is you're telling them?
Right. So for example, let's say for example, I'll draw some different examples just so that people have examples for different scenarios. I'm gonna do special music, a testimony, and a reenactment basket or something.
Yeah.
So for example, special music. If your church has one camera, you know, if it is you have an editor on hand, if you care to, you could do this thing like a music video where you do multiple takes. You have a medium shot, a close-up, a wide, and then now you have the person as far as is possible remember what they did by different lines so that you could now have the editor cut it up, and instead of having one static fixed shot in a position now where you have 3 different camera angles to choose from, right? Or if you're in a position where you have multiple cameras, you're now in a position where you could say, all right, somebody's directing. If you have camera personnel, or even if you don't have camera personnel, you frame up the different shot sizes differently. So you have one slightly off center to one side, the other one slightly off center to the other side. You have one as a wide shot or a medium as the main shot. And then now you could have the director switch between the shots. You could also direct the talent. So you let them know, all right, so when you see me point to this camera, you seamlessly look at that camera. When you see me point to this other camera, you seamlessly look to this other camera, which makes it more engaging. Even and every time the camera is pointed at a different thing, and you and the director now in sync with knowing, well, all right, I'm going to point out to this camera. So as you see, she started to turn, you automatically fade to the camera that is on, which is camera 1. I'm going to point at the camera 2 now, so that everybody in sync. So as the person moves, they just glide between the different things. And with every shot, they engage in the audience, they engage in the viewer because they have that eye contact. They're in a position where they have that eye contact. We do it sometimes at Five Rivers, sometimes we don't do it. But sometimes we do it, and we depending on who it is and whatnot, we guide them and point them. You
know, and yesterday, Stephan, again, I can't sing. I can make a joyful noise, but I can't sing like some of these singers that God would have, blessed out there. I could sing on a Sunday night, Wednesday night as an elder. Sometimes you have to fill in the gap, but no, that's not my gift. So I can't tell them how to sing. So that's not what I'm telling them to do. That's not what we're doing. But what we're doing, we're trying to best capture them. So how we can more effectively communicate that powerful message in song. How can the camera work? How can the lighting? How can these things better convey that message? So when we talk to them, like this guy yesterday, this guy wanted to close his eyes throughout the entire performance. And I had to talk to him and say, hey, I say, maybe for some parts, when you're going high or something, the audience can understand that. But understand that the camera is facing you. You say he's accustomed singing with his eyes closed. I say, well, you're going to have to try. I say, understand me as a viewer, we want to see you. You need to connect with us. I say, when you start, you need to look at the camera. So you need to tell them, you need to engage them, you need to let them know that this is different. When it's a church, a wider church, and you have live audience, yes, your online audience will know that they are singing towards the congregation. But when it's different, when you have a pre-recording and they're scratching their head, they're waiting for the track. The guy, one of the takes, we have to tell him, hey, scratch where you have to scratch now. He was fixing his beard and stuff. He said, no, during the takes, no scratch, because all this is distracting to your viewer, right? All this, we have the choice now. This is not live. We have the choice now where we can craft it in such a way that the message is the only focus. Not trying to see the tie shifted on one side, or this is a little distracting, this cable stuck here. We help them in such a way that, hey, everything on screen, it looks visual. Sound-wise, that's for the sound guy to deal with, all right? And also the performer. Again, we had a recording, I think recently, where somebody was out of sync. Again, we didn't have the person there to help guide them. You only had a camera person. That's why it's important to have all members of your team there who are gifted in certain things to ensure that the performances, that your ministry is well received and well captured, right? Because at the end of the day, it's not a show. Sometimes we get it's a lot of technical stuff here, but in the end, all persons are going to be, when they look, they listen to, wow, that was a blessing. I really appreciate your ministry. But it took so much work before. And that's the importance of that work before, right? Not that, it was a little scratchy. The microphone was the tapping of the mic, or you hear some click, or the cord was shorting. No. The nice thing about this, which is video recording, we have the time before to fix all those things, right? So when it is people take their time, their precious time, to tune in to Takarigwa stream, to tune in to Tunapuno stream, they can be blessed. So all these recordings, any little mistakes that they have in their Takarigwa right now while they're recording, they can try and fix it. One thing yesterday, okay, we had a guy, Stephan, and again, that's good to work together. This guy, every time we reach down to the end, he will do something. We tell him, you need to wait in the end until we tell you thumbs up, then you know. When he finishes singing or whatever, he just kind of shifts and his eyes are looking all over it because he's finished. But music's still playing, but he knows he's finished. So it's very, very, very distracting. So Stephan right there one time, he said, hey, yeah, what? Because we edited. We know we edited. We told him, say, here what? I just want you to stand still. Just stand still and let the song finish. So we didn't have to sing over the whole song. He just did the end because I know the previous shot was on the piano. The guy playing the piano, right? So because we know the guy was playing the piano, the next shot could just be him. We will underlay the music and he's just standing still. So in those things, you don't have to re-record. Oh my God, 5 minutes again to go back and record this. And we have so many things. So sometimes you need to work on the fly, work together, and quickly we got it done.
And that is the plus with pre-recording as opposed to live. You have the ability to do certain things to fix mistakes, and that is the thing. So another example with directing somebody for like a testimony, you want to be able to tell them, here's what, sit a particular way. This is the shot size. If you could flip the viewfinder and show them what it look like, because a lot of people conscious of how they look.
Yeah.
Sometimes people might be in a chair and they're swinging and they're talking and they're swinging and they're swinging and they're swinging. You have to let them know as far as it's possible, sit on a static chair as far as it's possible. If you have a swinging chair, try to swing. Because not all chairs quiet. So you might be on a chair and you're talking and then you hear when they turn on and every time they make a movement, it messes up your audio. You would have been going so fine and now you have to start over. If, for example, something like that happens, somebody lose their train of thought, make sure and talk to them about putting the phone on silent. If they could, like when I go to do interviews and things sometime, if it is somebody have a house phone, I tell them if you could just unplug your house phone until I finish, please. It might sound a little dread, but I know I come here for.
Yeah. And some locations are noisy stuff. We were talking about that. Some locations are noisy. I remember when we were shooting our drama series, the neighbor at that time, he decided to do some cutting and sewing and all these things. Yeah. And it might be simply just going and talk to them, having good relations. That's why it's good to live good with your neighbors.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, the Greens, they live good with their neighbors, so we're able to go to them and ask them, hey, just give us a little 10 minutes or so, and we were able.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
We just want to finish this particular scene. If you could just stop sewing for a little while. You could just walk at the bush and give me 15 minutes and you could start back walking or whatever the case might be. You know, somebody need, yeah, go ahead.
I see, Brother Thomas, I shared a very important thing about your eyes. He said, one of the first things I learned in performance music, when you sing with your eyes closed, you're singing to yourself. You know, and that is so important. That is so true. You know, in film, and I'm sure, and this is a tip here, because today when I was doing some recording, our pastor, he was saying every time we're trying to get focus, we zoom into the person's eye and we try to pull focus and make sure that their eyes are in focus. You know why that's important? You know why the eyes? Because that's the first thing as a human you look towards, their eyes. Human beings, we look to each other's eyes. And if you are engaging and you're looking to me, then you know, hey, all right, I feel connected. So that's why we always ensure that the eyes are focused. When you see camera technology, they talk about the tracking the eyes. That's so important because, again, they know that the eyes are important. So that's why in performances, and we're not saying this is show. This is not a show. When he says performance, it's not about it being a show. You are performing to communicate a message, and a message about God, and how effective you can do that. So the better you can do that is by engaging your audience, by looking directly at them and them knowing that you're looking towards them. Now, during the performances too, I could understand when you're singing high and you're going up. Again, I would know. I don't know what to do. But you go up high and your eyes closed, I could understand that. But majority, keep your eyes open. And it was a bit challenging for him, but he got it. He got it. We had to ask him, I say, hey, I brought it. His wife was there. One of the singers, his wife was there. We brought his wife. We say, hey, look at your wife and sing to your wife. So we had her sit there and he said, you look to her and you sing to her, brother. You sing to her. So he was able to do that. So sometimes it's just getting
position her close to the camera so his eyes not off. And we have to work with the talent.
And that's it too, Stephan, you know, and we could talk a bit about that, making the talent comfortable. Making them comfortable. So he was a great singer. Oh my, that young man could have sung Stephan, right?
Yeah,
but again, he himself, he couldn't effectively get the screen. So we need to make him feel comfortable. In the morning, we did some pre-recordings too, to some of our younger folks. And what we realized is that, hey, sometimes these we had a youth program. So we said, you know what, maybe just the welcome and the intro, we will pre-record those. So we decided to do those before the program aired. And we know it's a lot sometimes for these younger ones. It's a lot sometimes for us. So what we did, we asked individuals to leave the church, to make them feel comfortable, say, hey, it's just you and us. Talk to us. Forget the other one there will be in the corner. Forget that. They're outside. You make your talent comfortable. Sometimes it's empty in the room. You're doing all the dramatic performances and somebody come in and they're trying to watch, and sometimes it can intimidate the persons who are trying because this is your first time. We have, I don't think in Adventism, we have professionals who went to drama school and film school to learn how to act and stuff. We have people who are volunteering, right? Their time, and they're non-professional. They're very good. Some of them are very good, but sometimes to get the better performances, you may need to make them feel comfortable. And to make them, you may need to empty the space. You need to talk to others. Others shouldn't jump in and have, hey, you know, you could do this and you could do that better. No, on set, you have a hierarchy. And the persons who should be speaking are the directors directly to the talent. Of course, we know we all do volunteers, so we're going to be kind to everyone, but understand and respect each other's roles and functions, right? Steph?
I see. Just wrapping this part here real quick because I see somebody had their hand up.
All right, sure.
The third part, talking about directing, like if you're doing a skit or reenactment or something. So you now want to be able to block a scene. You now want to be able to pull your focus, aka keep the subject in focus. You know that the thing is, this person going to walk across this room, they're going to pick up the phone. You want to be able to know, all right, let's practice this and see where you need to change your focus to keep the subject in focus until you reach the end point. You have a start point, an end point, you go through to the talent. All right, so you and this person talking, and all you're talking about the trials of not having an employment during COVID. You all are going to start the conversation here. We're going to have a steady cam. We're going to be backpedaling, shooting the scene. We're going to walk from this point to that point. And we're gonna do 2 takes of this. 1 take with the camera focus on brother so by so, the next one on sister so by so. Matter of fact, we do 3. And we have a wide shot as a safety where we have both of you all in frame, and then we cut between the 3 shots or whatever the case is. So you direct your talent as to what you want from who we're gonna mic up, if it's the both of them, who this one is focusing on. All right. So sometimes you're gonna be doing person 1 is the main, but you need person 2 to give the lines once again for them to be able to feed off of the lines. So even though they're not in frame, they have to deliver the lines. So you talk to your talent, let them know, this is what I need from you, this is what I need from you, this is what we're going to do in this particular take, this is how we're going to do it, this is the start point, this is the end point. So when you say, all right, song speeding is another phrase for...
We'll come to the phrases. We'll come to the phrases. I wanted to mention about B-roll too. Mention about B-roll and what is B-roll? Because sometimes you only think of the person's talking.
Let me just take the question before we go to that, because I don't want the person to forget. Somebody had a hand raised.
Let's see the hand.
I saw an iPhone with a hand up in the air. I don't know if that was just a high five or if there was about to ask a question. But if anybody has any questions, because I don't want to go too far, too long, and then people forget. Because it's done for 5:08, and I know we still are getting to pre-production, the post, the editing. So anybody have any questions so far?
All right.
Nice. So I love this. I love this. When you say I have no questions, I mean you're very thorough in your delivery of the material. So go ahead and say what you was going to say.
Yeah, just B-roll. Just talk a bit about B-roll. You know, sometimes we just think about the main shots, but what is B-roll? What is B-roll?
Right. So B-roll is not A-roll.
All right.
Meaning to say, A, what the main thing would be is what you come to capture.
All right. So let's use the testimony of the car. Let's use the testimony of the car. Sister so-and-so is talking about, you know, God blessed her with this car. So you decide to capture in front of the car, you know, testifying about the car. So that's while she's speaking, she's the main focus. So you'll call that A-roll, right?
Yeah, that would be the main.
Mm-hmm.
So it come like when you're shooting film, you would have different roles of film. So you would have the main role, which is the main content. Then you would have another role of film. So you label, and we'll get to labeling later on. But I want to believe that is where that whole B-roll come from, where you have stuff on this particular scene or this particular take that is to complement the main footage. So the main footage would be the interview with Sister So by So, talking about this car and how God bless her with this car and how she uses this car, not just to be a blessing to herself, but how she uses this car as a part of her ministry, because she walked the church so many times. She said, the day I get a car, I ain't going to pass nobody straight. Simple things like that.
Make it a little more engaging by getting shots of the car, right?
This is the thing. Not even just getting shots of the car. One like me, I would go even further. So I would get shots of the car. Now, the B-roll, when I am shooting, I like things to complement the main footage. So I would love to have things complemented. So I wouldn't have somebody talk about, but God bless me with this car, and I'm so happy about this, and just take footage of cars passing up and down or whatever the case is. If I'm going to have footage of this vehicle, I'm going to have footage of this vehicle. Probably footage of this person waking up and going to the vehicle, driving. If they're talking about giving brothers and sisters drops to church, if I have the time, I would even want to get somebody to come and reenact that with them going and pick up this person to come to church. So while they're talking, you visually emphasize or visually aid the narrative and the story by having footage to complement what this person is talking about. So you have shots of this person picking up so by so from church, using the car to go and drop off people something, a bread for somebody or some kind of thing. So we have footage now to complement. I wouldn't have the person talking about how the car is such a blessing and they use it to drop Sister So by So Anderson, and in the B-roll now, I choose to have them tuning in the station and finding shots of them finding a station to listen to, because they're not complementing what they're talking about. So I often tell people, Not because we have shots of the building, mean that now is the time to put a shot of the building because the
Has to
building
be motivated. Has to be motivated.
not because we have shots of the pool or this person walking past the pool, mean that we're going to put a shot of them walking past the pool just because we have a shot of them walking past the pool because the pool looking real inviting. It must complement what they are talking about. You know, it must help tell the story. It must help propel the story. Even if you want to use that to twist the narrative and to direct people in a different, because people have a habit where they believe shot 1 is followed by shot 2 and shot 2 complements shot 1, when it could in truth and in fact show off the viewer a little bit because you wanted to show them off and make them think something. So you might see somebody on a cell phone and the phone ringing. Then you might see a next shot of a phone in a house and the phone ringing. And you might think, well, all right, Johnny calling Susie because that phone in Susie's house. But then it could be a situation where Johnny on a call and then you see Susie answer the phone and is really Mary on the phone with Susie. Because you just take them on a different twist or a different slant there for some reason that has to be necessary or worthwhile in the propelling of the story. You know, or you might see somebody take a shot at somebody jump in a car and you see the passenger door close and they speed off, but then you didn't see who jump in the passenger side and you hear them talking and you're keeping the focus on the driver all the while, but you're helping build suspense. You're helping build like, who's in the car with the person? Who you really talking to? You know, so different things that would help propel and drive the direction that you want the viewer to go in.
You know, before we go into post-production, I just want to talk a small bit about directing individuals and asking questions. Now, in film school, they taught us something about asking open-ended questions and the importance. So let me give you an example. We had to interview recently. There's sometimes interviews where you don't have somebody interviewing them on camera. So you want the persons to answer certain things, to certain questions. You want them to tell them about yourself. So I remember we had Pastor Tobias recently by us, and he had to testify about his whole educational life. So now when somebody sent me the questions were phrased like this. What is your name? What is your title? Now, if somebody's asking them on the side here, you ask them, what is your name? Tobias, Pastor Tobias. What is your title? I work at the union. Now, try thinking, editing that. Pastor Tobias, this, that. It's just going to be very disjointed because you're not going to hear the questions. It's just the answers you're gonna have. So in order to get all of that, you need to phrase your question in a particular way. And you're questioning how you phrase it. Again, you want them to tell them your name, where they work. You ask a question like, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me about your name, where you work, whatever. Okay, and they will start off differently. Well, my name is Pastor Tobias. I'm the president of the South Caribbean, the Caribbean Union. I've been, in Adventism for all my life. So again, the phrasing is different. If you ask them the question, one-off questions, they will answer it like that. So you need to be intentional again about asking your questions when you're interviewing someone. It's called the open-ended. You need to ask open-ended questions. So allow them sometimes to talk a bit. Now, the thing about doing interviews sometimes people forget. So you ask them one question and they go along. So it's kind of sometimes disrespectful to break them while they have the train of thought. So sometimes let them go, let them speak. And when you come back, you say, okay, and you hear inside it, they do what you wanted. They only said a little bit about it, and they said about so much about the other things. You can say, you know what? Tell me a little bit more about your experience with that car. When you had that car, how you felt. And in film, what you try to do, you try to evoke emotions. So people sometimes they just like, I thank God for the car and this and that. What you try to convey to others is emotion. Human beings connect with emotion. So you always try to get how they feel about something, especially with a testimony. Were you scared? Especially us as Adventists, when you get the testimony, I thank God, I get the blessing or whatever, but we're trying to carry you on a journey. How you felt before you before you got that blessing? How did you feel when not having the car? Tell us a little bit about not having the car and the challenges you had. well, boy, it was rough enough. I had to always rely on my sister to come and pick me up and carry me here and there. So you want them to get, so people could connect with that. Not just the end result, which is you got the car, but you want to tell that story. Film is about storytelling, and you want to convey that emotion. So you can't rely on them. They have the story, and your job is for you to pull it out of them. So you need to think about it. How can I better, the viewer better experience that testimony? That knowing before they had that challenge. And in the end, God came through for them. What was the middle? They prayed about it. So we know we're taking persons on that journey. So you need to plan for this. You need to plan. So it's not just going to point the camera at this person and say, testify. It's not that. You need to think about it. You need to craft it. Singer, you just go sing. Actor, you just go act. You have a role. You're not a technician now. You are.
So even though they're not in frame, they have to deliver the lines. You talk to your talent, let them know, this is what I need from you. This is what I need from you. This is what we're going to do in this particular take. This is how we're going to do it. This is the start point. This is the end point. So when you say, all right, song speeding is another phrase for...
We'll come to the phrases. Yeah. We'll come to the phrases. I wanted to mention about B-roll too. Mention about B-roll and what is B-roll? Because sometimes you only think of the person's...
Okay. Let me just take the question before we go to that, because I don't want the person to forget. Somebody had a hand raised.
Let's see the hand.
I saw an iPhone with a hand up in the air. I don't know if that was just a high five or if there was about to ask a question. But if anybody has any questions, because I don't want to go too far, too long, and then people forget. Because it's done for 5:08, and I know we still are again the pre-production, the post, the editing. So anybody have any questions so far?
All right.
Nice. So I love this. I love this. When you say I have no questions, I mean you're very thorough in your delivery of the material. So go ahead and say what you was going to say.
Yeah, just B-roll. Just talk a bit about B-roll. Right, sometimes we just think about the main shots, but what is B-roll? What is B-roll?
Right. So B-roll is not A-roll.
All right.
Meaning to say, what the main thing would be is what you come to capture.
All right. So let's use the testimony of the car. Let's use the testimony of the car. Sister so-and-so is talking about, God blessed her with this car. So you decide to capture in front of the car, testifying about the car. So that's while she's speaking, she's the main focus. So you'll call that a role, right?
Yeah, that would be the main. Mm-hmm. So it come like when you're shooting film, you would have different roles of film. So you would have the main role, which is the main content. Then you would have another role of film. So you label, and we'll get to labeling later on. But I want to believe that is where that whole B-roll comes from, where you have stuff on this particular scene or this particular take that is to complement the main footage. So the main footage would be the interview with Sister So-by-so talking about this car and how God bless her with this car and how she uses this car, not just to be a blessing to herself, but how she uses this car as a part of her ministry, because she walked the church so many times. She said, the day I get a car, I ain't go pass nobody straight. Mm-hmm. Simple things like that.
Make it a little more engaging by getting shots of the car, right?
This is the thing. Not even just getting shots of the car. One like me, I would go even further. So I would get shots of the car. Now, the B-roll, when I am shooting, I like things to complement the main footage. So I would love to have things complemented. So I wouldn't have somebody talk about, boy, God bless me with this car, and I'm so happy about this, and just take footage of cars passing up and down or whatever the case is. If I'm going to have footage of this vehicle, I'm going to have footage of this vehicle. Probably footage of this person waking up and going to the vehicle, driving. If they're talking about giving brothers and sisters drops to church, if I have the time, I would even want to get somebody to come and reenact that with them going and pick up this person to come to church. So while they're talking, you visually emphasize or visually aid the narrative and the story by having footage to complement what this person is talking about. So you have shots of this person picking up so by so from church, using the car to go and drop off people something, a bread for somebody or some kind of thing. So we have footage now to complement. I wouldn't have the person talking about how the car is such a blessing and they use it to drop sister so by so and this, and in the B-roll now I choose to have them tuning in the station and finding shots about them finding a station to listen to, because they're not complementing what they're talking about. So I often tell people, not because we have shots of the building mean that now is the time to put a shot of the building, because the building
has to be motivated.
Not because we have shots of the pool or this person walking past the pool mean that we're going to put a shot of them walking past the pool just because we have a shot of them walking past the pool because the pool looking real inviting. It must complement what they are talking about. You know, it must help tell the story. It must help propel the story. Even if you want to use that to twist the narrative and to direct people in a different, because people have a habit where they believe shot 1 is followed by shot 2 and shot 2 complements shot 1, when it could in truth and in fact show off the viewer a little bit because you wanted to show them off and make them think something. So you might see somebody on a cell phone and the phone ringing. Then you might see a next shot of a phone in a house and the phone ringing. And you might think, well, all right, Johnny calling Susie because that phone in Susie's house. But then it could be a situation where Johnny on a call and then you see Susie answer the phone and is really Mary on the phone with Susie. Because you just take them on a different twist or a different slant there for some reason that has to be necessary or worthwhile in the propelling of the story. You know, or you might see somebody take a shot at somebody jump in a car and you see the passenger door close and they speed off. But then you didn't see who jump in the passenger side and you hear them talking and you're keeping the focus on the driver all the while, but you're helping build suspense. You're helping build like, who's in the car with the person? Who you really talking to? You know, so different things that would help propel and drive the direction I want the viewer to go in.
You know, before we go into post-production, I just want to talk a small bit about directing individuals and asking questions. Now, in film school, they taught us something about asking open-ended questions and the importance. So let me give you an example. We had to interview recently. There are sometimes interviews where you don't have somebody interviewing them on camera. So you want the persons to answer certain things, to certain questions. You want them to tell them about yourself. So I remember we had Pastor Tobias recently by us, and he had to testify about his whole educational life. So now when somebody sent me the questions were phrased like this. What is your name? What is your title? Now, if somebody's asking them on the side here, you ask them, what is your name? Tobias, Pastor Tobias. What is your title? I work at the union. Now, try thinking, editing that. Pastor Tobias, this, that. It's just going to be very disjointed because you're not going to hear the questions. It's just the answers you're gonna have. So in order to get all of that, you need to phrase your question in a particular way. And you're questioning how you phrase it. Again, you want them to tell them your name, where they work. You ask a question like, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me about your name, where you work, whatever. Okay, and they will start off differently. Well, my name is Pastor Tobias. I'm the president of the South Caribbean, the Caribbean Union. I've been, in Adventism for all my life. So again, the phrasing is different. If you ask them the question, one-off questions, they will answer it like that. So you need to be intentional again about asking your questions when you're interviewing someone. It's called the open-ended. You need to ask open-ended questions. So allow them sometimes to talk a bit. Now, the thing about doing interviews sometimes people forget. So you ask them one question and they go along. So it's kind of sometimes disrespectful to break them while they have the train of thought. So sometimes let them go, let them speak. And when you come back, you say, okay, and you hear inside it, what you wanted, they only said a little bit about it, and they said about so much about the other things. You could say, you know what, tell me a little bit more about your experience with that car, when you had that car, how you felt, and in film, what you try to do, you try to evoke emotions. So people sometimes they just like, I thank God for the car and this and that. What you try to convey to others is emotion. Human beings connect with emotion. So you always try to get how they feel about something, especially with a testimony. Were you scared? Especially us as Adventists, when you gain the testimony, I thank God, I get the blessing or whatever, but we're trying to carry you on a journey. How you felt before you get to before you got that blessing? How do you feel when not having the car? Tell us a little bit about not having the car and the challenges you had. Well, boy, it was rough enough. I had to always rely on my sister to come and pick me up and carry me here and there. So you want them to get, so people could connect with that. Not just the end result, which is you got the car, but you want to tell that story. Film is about storytelling and you want to convey that emotion. So you can't rely on them. They have the story, and your job is for you to pull it out of them. So you need to think about it. How can I better, the viewer better experience that testimony? That knowing before they had that challenge. And in the end, God came through for them. What was the middle? They prayed about it. So we know we're taking persons on that journey. So you need to plan for this. You need to plan. So it's not just going and point the camera at this person and say, testify. It's not that. You need to think about it. You need to craft it. Singer, you just go sing. Actor, you just go act. You have a role. You're not a technician now. You are not a camera technician. And this is the difference between a camera technician and a filmmaker. When you think of it, persons who design cameras, Canon, then their engineers should be the best filmmakers. They aren't. They know all about the camera, but they are not filmmakers. Filmmakers, which we are all trying to be here right now, take these objects and better capture stories, music, messages, sermons. That's what we're trying to do in this Christian faith, right? So we're trying to use this craft to better tell the stories, right? So while I set up, Stephan, is there anything I want to just start sharing my screen?
Yeah. While you're doing that, a very, very important thing that we take for granted sometimes is he pressing record? You see that record button?
Oh yes, talk a bit about the set etiquette in terms of quiet on set and all these different things, right?
Yeah. You might be in a position where the person gave you the most stellar of renditions of music, and you forget to record. They go on and you reach home to edit, and nothing is on the drive, and you want to feel sick. You understand? So you want to try to be in a position where you remember to press record. Make sure and be intentional to watch to see that light blinking. You see the time codes running. You see the REC in a corner next to a red dot, either steady or flashing. And you then know, all right, cool. And what you want to do is not just say, all right, I press record, or you say action, and then you press record, or you give them the countdown 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you press record after, because you might miss the beginning. If you miss the front end of something, you see somebody say happen today and they laugh.
Yes. It has happened. It
has happened. You don't want to tell somebody. You want to always shoot or direct with the editor in mind, because they are the ones who are going to bring what you do to life. The editor has to have sufficient material. You must leave sufficient room before and after each part that you actually want. A couple of seconds. If you can leave up to 10 seconds, better fit. Because sometimes you have to put a fade, a transition, or some different thing. That if it is you start recording on the button, they don't have enough room to grip the footage before or after to actually fade, blend into anything, and it would just be like a cut, a jump cut, a blunt cut, which is not bad all the time. But when you're editing certain things and you're trying to put pieces together, it tends to not give you room to fade. A fade represents a passage of time. A fade represents a change in scenario, situation, different things. A fade, so everything has to be intentional. So just like Kivonne was talking about, you're using all the transitions on the planet that are available. When you look at a professionally edited certain things, it's cut a particular way, it's faded a particular way, because it means something when you use a transition. When you go from one frame to the next frame, back to that frame, it means something how the thing is cut. So a bit about the language on set and set etiquette and how you treat with a set. So ideally, you want to be in a position where you have quiet when you're taping. So before I even start the tape, I go find out everybody camera on everybody phone on silent or it off altogether. It have certain sets. When you reach on the set, you can't even walk with your phone on the set. Leave that at security, leave that in your locker, leave that in your car because they want zero distractions. We have your time now and we have your time now. In the case of an emergency, you could give them the producer's contact number, give your family that number. So if it is the need to reach you in an emergency, get on to this person. If it's an emergency, they will now stop the shooting to get on to this person to talk to them. And that's how, I want to say dreaded, but I'll just say that's how serious it is on some sets when you're moving with a level of professionalism. We want zero distractions. Now, again, it's hard to tell people when they volunteer and this way it is. Sometimes you let people hold their phone, but you let them know, please keep your phone on silent. If it is, you could keep it put away until we're done with your scene. That will be help. So keeping phones on silent, that is one thing. There's a notification like song speeding or song rolling, meaning to say if it is you're doing a double system where you have song being captured separate and apart from the video recording device, you would have song speeding or song rolling called out by the person who is dealing with the song, or you would have the director ask song speeding or song rolling, and the person who dealing with song would say song rolling. The person who dealing with the camera and actually recording the footage, the cinematographer or the videographer, would be asked camera rolling, meaning to say, have you started recording as yet? Now, that is the fail safe now for the person to know, all right, the camera is rolling. And that would now give the editor the room that they have need for. So you have the song running, you have the camera running. Then the person who is directing would say action. Now, they might even say quiet on set because we're going to do a take. They would call for quiet on set because sometimes the director have to look over footage, sometimes the director have to talk to a cast member. It's natural that people might want to talk a little bit about what's coming up next, about some funniness, about whatever the case might be. When you're ready to record, sometimes you just have parents who on standby waiting for the children and they get a phone call, oh gosh, Shelly, they now doing the recording, girl, or some kind of thing, and you know, all right, we go allow them for now. We're ready to tape as yet. But when you're ready to tape, best believe Mommy and Shirley had to go out the door. Because right now we need quiet on set. Please, no problem, but we need quiet on set. They will escort themselves out the venue or out the location. Sometimes they feel they walk fine enough. They just bend the corner because they still want to see while they're talking to Shirley. But you now need to let them know, just a little more room. We're still here, and we just need a little. This zone needs to be quiet because the mics are very sensitive. The mics pick up anything. Sometimes people mic and they're not in the scene at this point in time, but the mic's still on and they're talking to another person. Now that audio would come through the system and be on line 1 or line 2, left or the right channel. And you want them to be quiet, quiet on set. If you're not acting, please be quiet so we could get the lines. Because sometimes to unmic somebody to mic them back because them coming up right after this is a lot. The placement of the mic, if you're doing anything professionally, it's stuck to the person top, or it's stuck to on the garment underneath the top, or it's stuck to the bare skin, right? Just so that you don't see the mic, you don't hear the mic ruffling against the clothing and that type of thing. That's what they do in movies, apart from using booms and that type of stuff, right? So you want to be able to have quiet on set, you want to have song speeding or song rolling, camera rolling, wait a little couple seconds, then you call action. When you call action now, then you're in a position where you have the talent start to do whatever they came to do, be it special music, be it know that we're going to start the questioning with the interview, be it that they're going to start to deliver their lines, and you're in a position now where people engage. When you finish, you wait for the director to say cut, and then they know, well, all right, you come out of character, you come out the set you're able to come out the frame. You give them a thumbs up if you're in church, as opposed to saying cut. So they know, all right, we good. Once you see the thumbs up, you know we good with the take. Once the control room see the thumbs up, we know we good out here. The control room finish the recording, they give you the thumbs up, you give the person the thumbs up, and everybody know we good to go. Right? You want to say back to one. Everybody mark the first position. You put markers on the ground. If it's a leaf, if it's a X, if it's a what, you know this is your start point, this is your end point. So you know, all right. We say, all right, everybody back to one, meaning back to your first position, back to the place where you started this particular scene, back to your getting up to say the thing. You wouldn't really tell a person in an interview back to one, but those are just some of the terminologies and languages that you would hear on a set. I'm not thinking of anything else. I don't know if you have any that you want to mention.
No problem. Guys, it's just the language. It's important to communicate, and there are these hierarchies, and it's not just so the man in charge and he's shouting quiet on set. It's not trying to be disrespectful, but it's important for the end product. So we say it so everyone's aware we are going to record. Then he asked, camera rolling. If we ask if camera is rolling, you want to make sure that that's your system. Hey, the camera you should press record. And then they indicate, yes, camera is rolling, camera rolling. Song speeding, you ask song speeding. All right, so that person is recording song. Okay, stand by and action. And most persons, and again, you have to talk to your talent. You don't, as he says action, you go one time, yes, and so on. So give it a few seconds, let them get, and then go in. That gives enough room for also for the performances. Sometimes the eyes drifting all over the place. Let me get into character. The singers, let me get into before you press play. Okay, all right, everything. Testimonies, okay, we're going just now. When I said action, you could start, right? Or sometimes I said, you can start anytime. When you feel you start, especially for testimonies, I just allow them. Yeah, you can go ahead. Because it's digital media, so let it run. You could cut it out later on. Live is different. Live, when we say you on, you have to go now, right? But in pre-recorded, you have that luxury. Give me a little time and then start, right? Then start, because we could cut. We could cut the end and we could cut the beginning. And as Stephan said, you need space to feed. And that's where we come into post-production. So you were on set, you did all these things, rain. And again, we didn't speak about it, but I just wanted to always to remember, you must always have a plan B. Especially when you're doing narrative stuff. You organize people to cook food, you organize this, you organize that. Look, last week we had Pathfinders. And we tried our best. The weather app sometimes fails you. Rain. We had rain in the morning. So our plan B was, this was supposed to be an outdoor program. But if we don't get ease up in this rain, we don't have any more windows to record. So we're going in church and we're going to record in them. But thankfully, through the power of prayer, and again, this is the difference between Christian filmmaking. And again, we do that all the time, even though it's a technical something. You pray when you're on set, get everybody in the frame of mind, when it is we're going to start. Afterwards, we pray before meals, everything you build. This is different. This is Christian filmmaking. This is Christian recording. So again, everything go with God. Go with God. All right.
Yeah, that's a key thing I forgot to mention. Pray,
yeah, definitely. So I want to move on quickly to post-production. And Stephan mentioned it briefly there about ensuring that your cards, you see those little SD cards that you have that you record media on. It's very important that you invest in good memory cards. I know as churches we try to save money all over, but you see the memory cards in which you record in your media. Make sure and get. I know a lot of us, we like to use those small micro SDs and we put them in the big adapters, but I will tell you, first-hand experience of a lot of film students who come at the end of the semester crying, people, literally crying, because their whole semester's work is lost because of that. That's why it's so important to have good media and to back up that media too. Oh, I had it on my computer and my computer crashed. Or the hard drive and the external hard drive. That's a whole day of shooting. Sometimes days of shooting you have backed up there. And it's gone. It's gone. It's a lot of work. You know what it is to call back people to come and record that? It's your time, it's their time. You may not get the same performances. So it's important it's important to invest in good capture media. SD cards, CF cards, whatever cards you're using, buy the good one. No, look, just say, it's cheaper. I could get 2 for this. Buy the extreme cards. They call them extreme. Extreme. The SanDisk extreme. Lexa has also. Buy good ones. Buy good hard drives. Yes, I will have prosumer gear and consumer gear, and again a nice 4 terabytes hard drive for 80 US. There's a difference when you have things like from companies called Lissy and the high-end stuff, and you're like, why is they charging so much money and it's less space? Because they're built differently. They are high-end gear made for wear and tear. Now, even with those, they fail, but they fail less frequently. So even with those, you still back up. Yeah, you still back up. Part of when you're asking your church for stuff is buy hard drives. I'm telling you, initially, I had everything backed up on this drive, on that drive, and it's all my stuff. So I had to make sure I talk to them, say, hey, we need some hard drives for church that exclusively they hold. And now we put up a system in place where they're also backed up on a drive at church. We haven't been doing it as actively, and again, this will be coming back to a work ethic of when you record stuff, you try and back it up, and you need to have that in place. So we're going now quickly to post-production. So you've captured it, all your hard work, it was challenges, you had your scripts, everything went well, but you had little things that happened. You take notes of it, you mention it to the editor. If you're editing it and you were there to shoot it too, so then make sure and back up your data, and you go and you sift through your footage. So I'm going to go quickly, just share my screen with some projects that we currently have. Right. Are you all seeing?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, man.
All right. So this is Adobe Premiere. Some of you use Pinnacle. Some of you all use it have Sony Vegas. Have so many, but it have Final Cut. Yes, DaVinci Resolve. Again, at the end of the day, this is a tool. Right? So this is an editing tool. So I just want you to start. Now, this is a very complex project. This project is complex because this is stuff that I have in church from multiple. So when I open this one project, there are multiple sequences. You're seeing my mouse, right? Multiple sequences. These multiple sequences represent different things. Children's corner, special music, so I have them, right? But one thing you need to start, when your projects start getting big, you need to start to organize your media. You need to start to create folders. Whether you have special music, you put them in that folder. If you have sound for it, you put it in that folder, right? If it is you have sermons, you put them in a particular folder. You start labeling. Because you know what is going to happen, and it has happened to many of us at times. I'm sure it's happened to you. You're looking for something, a picture or this or that, and you have no idea where it is. And with video editing, you are dealing with a lot of media. Media is when it comes out your camera, it's named DC something 0053, right? That's what it's going to be. So you can't say, I'm going to search for this or that. It's some weird names, AC something, different cameras have different, but it's never going to be named Sabbath, so and so and so and so, right? So what you're going to have to do is to label your media, put them in folders, and store them properly so you yourself has come up. Now, the importance of doing that also is especially heightened when you're working with teams, when you're working with individuals who you may have to transfer media to. So you should have folder set up. You know what? I have a folder with video, audio, graphics. You always have those folders, sound effects, all these different things, and you have media. Images, you have them stored there. So when you open your project, you have them, right? Now, again, I'm not always that efficient in that, but that's when it becomes challenging, when others have to take over your project. But as far as possible, you label your media. Yes, Stephan?
Yeah, I just wanted to say something real quick on that, because as you say, you mightn't be too much of a stickler for it. But I am very, very big on that. One of the first things that I learned when I was learning to edit is the vast importance of asset management. The ability to have all your assets properly well identified and identifiable as to where you would have them. So You might be in a situation you have 1 hard drive, you might be in a situation where you have 5 hard drives, whatever the case might be. You want to be in a position where all the elements per project in one space. So in the event you have to share that with somebody, they're in one general location. There's sometimes you export up a file and it's not a self-contained exporting and all the other pieces located at your drive and the project, nobody else could work on it because all the assets not in one space because you're not organized. It's organized for you, but not organized for other people. So you want to always start learning it in the correct way. So if it is I'm going to be shooting today, I would have a folder. Let's say, for example, I have a folder that says church stuff or Five Rivers SDS, whatever the case might be. In that one folder, I would have different folders. So if it is, I know I have stuff for Sabbath, the 25th, Sabbath, the whatever, Sabbath, the whatever, I would have different things. Or if it is, I have Children's Corner, I would have all the elements of Children's Corner, but in that Children's Corner folder, I would have Sabbath, the this, Sabbath, the what, Sabbath, the what. So everything for this particular thing, I would have a folder for elements, a folder for effects, a folder for audio, a folder for video or footage, enabled footage. So the elements will be different things. So you want to have a special song, this, that, the other, whatever the case might be, a graphic, a logo, whatever the case is, you have specific folders so you know, well, all right, all the logos, all the whatever the case might be in this particular folder. I know exactly where to go to get it, and you have copies of everything for each particular thing as you go along. But it's critically important to set up your stuff like that, label the project with a name, save. Don't just rely on autosave. But go ahead, Kiv, I'll jump in.
Right. So again, we're coming back. Asset management. It might seem like a lot of work in the front end because it's just a few files. It's one file. It's just this simple thing. But over time, the beast gets bigger. The projects get bigger. You have to add more things. And why it is I do it this way, where I have multiple projects in one particular, multiple sequences in one project, is because sometimes, again, I may need to pull an asset from one project to another project. So Adobe Premiere has allowed now that you could have multiple projects open in one project. And that works good for me and my work ethic, because I may need to, I remember I used this graphic, this purple lower third, I remember, instead of me going back and digging up, I can have all my assets in one bin where I can get access to it quickly. Instead of moving, I have about 5 or 6 hard drives, right? Instead of shuffling over into all these hard drives, it's there, I can remember. So I just want to give you a quick example. You all see my mouse? You all see my mouse? All right, so you see my mouse. So this was a special music that we did with Sister Lisa Foster, all right? Great singer. Now, on the evening when we were supposed to record this, 2 things happened. Now, and this is again, importance of planning. Now, individuals, they wanted 3 recordings done. Now, usually we try to record on Sabbath because the entire team is there already. And for us, we said, you know what, since everybody's there already, we stay back a little and we record. Now, unfortunately, this could not happen, right? So all the experts we're talking about, persons in sound like Cleon, who usually is there to help guide, with respect to the track and record it properly. Cinematographers, Stephan, me with editing, all these different things, where we weren't there. So we had individuals who were able, but they're not, at the level that was required. But I want to show you some of the challenges we faced with this. Now, this was shot relatively well, and they had to point the camera. And this is why pre-planning is important. So I want to turn off just some layers here. So editing. Editing is what? Cutting. It's taking top, bottom, sometimes splicing things here, overlaying things. This is the power of editing. You can go back and do sound design. So what we usually do with these things, we usually get individuals to come at the church and they record. We try to keep the audio levels in the house very low, and we record directly to the mixer, or we have a digital mixer, and we could record it directly to the mixer, and we get individual channels. Sometimes we do it that way, sometimes we do it another way. It depends on Cleon. He knows what he can do, and he'll speak to that a little more next week. But when we record, again, I usually send the sound material by Cleon to match back with the track, and he would mix it. Sometimes he may need to clean up some of the voices, add little effects. That's the luxury of doing pre-recording. So he can do that, right? I would then get it back, and I would get it back in a raw state, right? So Cleon would give me this back with the audio levels and everything. And if you notice here, let me see. The victory would begin. So it already has the music, everything. And I want you to look at this little indicator here. Look at where the levels are. When we call upon. Now for us, you see where there's 0 and you have -3? For us at Five Rivers, and for us in terms of the standard, I kind of like to want things to go to -3. Why -3? That's the highest level I want, and gives it enough room that if it is the peaks, we still have about 3 dB to go. So I want -3. If it's hitting 0 too much, that's what we call peaking. And I don't want that. So usually Cleon will normalize everything to -3 for me. So when I'm editing, I don't necessarily need to raise the audio levels, right? Then when you come to the video now Cleon may not notice, or maybe he does, but the video usually, because of how we record at church, now your computers, when you record, remember computers, when we have something called encoding, it takes more computer power to encode video versus encoding audio. So we record to our computer through OBS. And when that happens, I usually realize that the voice, the audio and the video are out of sync by -4 frames. So I would usually, if you look here carefully, you're going to see 4 frames. So I literally have to separate the video and the audio and shift the video down a little, right? So it will be in sync now. So her lips, when she is singing, it will be in sync. Now, usually when you record to your cameras directly and you get footage like that, you don't have to deal with that. Professional cameras, good cameras, most cameras, you don't have to deal with that. But because in this, we are not recording in camera and we are capturing through OBS and we are video mixing through OBS, everything, I would have to do that in post. Sync back up the audio and the video. So I would have to do that. So because again, later on, you're going to talk about branding. I know at this time we are doing a series with the youth series or certain things. I'm using certain colors. I would put up certain logos on the video that reflects that. So again, you brand the material. You brand the material. So as a video editor, I would do that. Next thing I would want to do is the color grade, right? So again, I'm using something here called Lumetri, and again, Resolve would have something else. And there's slight little color corrections. Now, most times, what we try to do is you capture it proper. You try to capture it as best as possible, right? You try to do that. So once you capture it properly, again, it's less work for you as an editor in terms of that. But let me show you something where an editor, we can't really fix. So remember before Stephan was talking about different shot sizes. Let me show you a challenge here. So this is we have 3 cameras recording here. So this is the main camera, but we call it camera 2 at church. This is one shot here, another camera. And this is, let me give you the other side, is right. This is the other shot. Now, I want you all to tell me, and maybe somebody could tell me, what you think is wrong with these 3 shots. This is shot 1. This is shot 2. And this is shot 3. All right? Tell me. Anyone want to share something? What do you think? You're quiet today, boy. You're quiet today. But again, let me share with you what we think. Now, each individual shot is kind of okay. I have a problem with this shot that you're seeing here. And first, let's start with this shot. This shot is not well composed. Why isn't it well composed? Who's the subject there? It's the sister, right? Sister Lisa Foster. But she's not well positioned in the frame. Now, let me show you something. This is the rule of thirds. If you look at it, she is supposed to be looking forward, but there's a sort of, when you're doing with somebody is looking forward, you leading room. Let me show you how she is supposed to be positioned. If it is we're supposed to do that, it should have been like that. Centered or like that. You can't have it too much to one side, the front side. It's too much, the front space should always have, because she has a looking room. We don't have enough looking room. The next problem we have with a lot of these shots is that they are all similar in size. Look at it. They are all medium shots. Now, they are different in terms of angles, right? But they are too similar in shot sizes. Now let me show you where that's going to become challenging. Let me take this out so be less. Look at this. Look when we fade. You notice it? Let me show you where is it a little more obvious. I think it's somewhere here. Look, it's here. Right, watch this. Watch when we're fading. Watch how in between looks. It's very distracting to the viewer, that fade, because it's like you're seeing two of her at the same time, her eyes, everything positioned almost in the same space, so it's too similar. So if we're supposed to shoot this, let me show you another one. Right, this is another special music we did. Right, so
I was now going to ask you to show an example of it done better.
So again, you see, the shot sizes are different. So there's a medium close, then there's a frontal. So when the eyes are transitioning, when you transition in between, it's not too much. There where the eyes are overlapping, you see it? You see the in between? It fades a lot better. Now, again, I'm gonna say that we're picky. Some may say, well, all that. Yes, attention to detail is important. Because what we're trying to do is, again, engage your audience. Help them to focus on the message. Not to say, hey, that look a little strange there. You want them to focus on the music. So you're being very intentional. So even this gentleman here, we have a little bit of color correction. I hope you're able to appreciate it. Zoom may not be able to appreciate that much, but you can see it, right? Lower thirds, right? We add music, the information must be accurate. We add that, again, if you notice when we add it. So look at the performer even before they start. So we had the guy before, I tell you yesterday, he was scratching his beard because he's waiting for the song to start. He's not supposed to sing as yet, but that can be distracting to us as the viewer. Now I want you again to see the fading. That fade, again, you have choices. That fade could have been done fast, a quick fade. It could have just been a cut. But why I think a slow fade is because the type of music, again, it's informed the type of editing style we use. So the type of editing style we use here, because the song is slow, it's sort of melancholic. You know, it's a reflective moment. We don't want things distracting. If this graphic too, the graphics which we're using, the lower third graphics, it was flashy and colors and all over the place. Again, it's distracting. We're trying to set mood here. Now, we don't have lighting as yet, hoping that God will bless us with some, where we can have lighting. Again, the lighting there with the colored lights and stuff where we hope to get soon, it will again reflect everything. We want to inform the viewer, hey, low light, low key lighting, mood lighting, everything to set the tone. So we have to be intentional when it comes to these things, right? So this is just a quick example of that. And again, you as an editor, you have the power of choice. Sound editing, sometimes what you do, and I'm going to show you that more because this, thankfully, I have clients, so client would do all that cleanup. And client is going to talk a bit about that. I always call in for tips, because again, we don't live in perfect environments. A lot of these recordings you see when it comes from abroad, when you look at these things, they have something called sound stages. Those are in studio where they have quiet, they build sets, they build back everything. When you look at Tribune, that's a whole studio and that's a set they replicate inside it so they can control the environment. The challenges we have at Five Rivers is that sometimes, again, in the Caribbean as a whole, lighting changes so drastically. Sun come out now, I think, like that, changing, sometimes reflections, all these different challenges you have. But you do your best. And in editing, you can try and fix some of these challenges. So I was telling you, I haven't edited that one as yet. So let me show you. Back here in the end, when the music finished for the gentleman, music was still going, but he thought he was finished. His part finished, so he started to fiddle. And we recorded all this. This was good. So this was yesterday. So what Stephan reminded me, and again, we said, you know what? Hey, we had a shot before of the piano. So when it is, we could cut in a new shot now, just of him, just standing still and just smiling, and then the camera just fade off. We go into black, right? right? So again, we are being intentional. That's the nice thing of pre-recording. Now I want to move quickly to something a little more difficult, a little more challenging, but, and again, you take time, you learn more about. There's a lot of resources on YouTube, again, but we want to give you a quick example of a bit of narrative stuff, right? So I don't know if you all saw some of our children's corners, you've seen some of our dramas, but again, our experimentation with this started off first in building capacity with our more so with our casting, is individuals working on set with respect to our children's corners. They are shorter sequences, and again, it allows for a little more flexibility and creativity. So we all know it's that. So as an editor, I know there's a story. There's a story. This one is on David. So we have branding again. We're going to learn about that. Our branding, we have team music, right? So again, graphics, everything, fonting, animations, everything reflecting why. When you hear this music, what do you think about? It's children. The fonts itself, I'm not going to use those childlike fonts for something that's serious, right? We understand this is playful, it's children, you want them to feel excited. But when you're talking about the cross and stuff and Calvary, you're not going to use that type of font, right? So again, let's continue. Intentional in choosing footage, everything. Now, again, we have a range of photographs parents would send me from time to time, but I want to ensure that I choose the best, because why? This is going to represent everything that we're doing. So we try to choose the best footage, right? So title information that we go to Auntie Peggy.
Happy Sabbath, boys and girls, and to the mummies and daddies, the uncles, the auntie.
All right, scripting comes into play here. Elder Green would understand before we have conversations. It's the stories about David and Goliath. Usually we tape this after we shoot the drama. Why? Because sometimes she needs to speak to that, right? Sometimes things may change on the day when we shoot. So even though you script, and you will face this, even though you script and you map out, and I will give you the experience with David and Goliath, you script, you map out, you plan, sometimes things change on the day because this person didn't come out. They may not be a key person, and you may need to adapt the script. Sometimes light is running, things may change. She may say, you know what, hey, it's a night scene. And take it, she says something about being night, and it's not night, right? Because we have to shoot it in the day, or vice versa. So we need to be mindful of these things. So for us, we choose to shoot this after we shoot the story itself. So Elder Green, she would know everything. She would, again, we will go over. For her, she may not necessarily write down every single thing. Sometimes she writes down everything, but depending, again, she's versatile. It has some individuals who are very gifted. They'll be able to speak, but she must know what she's going to say. She must plan what she's going to say, and she does that.
The grannies, we are happy to have you.
Again, because it's children, she has to be a little more charismatic. She has to smile a lot. She has to engage a lot, right? So she's being intentional there. As the director, I would tell her, you need to look in the camera. Sometimes, again, because you're taking multiple takes, they may forget to smile. They're more focused on what to say and not how they perform. So you are the one looking behind the camera. You need to always be mindful of these things, right? So as the editor, when I sit down here, I have choices. We have multiple takes of these things, right? So if you look carefully here, it might be along. So if you look at the timeline, this is the main file. But Stephan spoke about B-roll. She's talking about now an animal. So we always do a little creature. So when she talks about the creature, we have B-roll of the creature.
But we later found out he was a capybara and he belonged to the rodent family. Capybaras?
No, again, so she's talking a bit about capybaras. Now, if you look carefully here on my timeline, you will see a lot of cuts because Elder Green doesn't. Let me show you.
Live in South and Central America during the dry season.
All right,
they eat melons and squash.
So you see the jump, right? The reason being is different performances. As the editor, I take the best one. Sometimes they may ramble a bit, but you as the editor, you can cut it. You can choose, okay, there was a mistake here, but in the first take, she did it well. So we have choices. Now, if I were to play this, and this is the power of B-roll. All right, hold on. All right, this one. If I were to play this without
America during the dry.
That's a jump cut. That doesn't look nice at all. That's a jump cut. So as a viewer, that is distracting. But the powerful thing about B-roll, we planned for it already. During this part, when she's given facts about the capybaras, we know that we're covering it with footage. So we cover it. So we add B-roll to cover it.
This season, they eat melons and squash. Now that could be a problem for the farmers because, you know, they could be a bit destructive. Capybaras are very intelligent.
Right? So we cover it.
12 years in a zoo.
Now, as an editor, and even when you're shooting too, there's some parts you just can't cover. Intros, you can't cover the intro. She's engaging the children. This is the first time they're seeing her. So you need to ensure that your talent, they understand that certain parts you can't cover and fix. So, okay, like sometimes in scripture, there's a passage of scripture might be a little too long for them to remember. Say, hey, I could put up the text during that part. Cool, no problem. You could cover up something this part. Some things you can cover and some things you can't. Right before we go to the story, she needs to challenge the children or tell them a little bit. So it doesn't make sense here to cover it. So again, we've built a rapport where she knows that these parts you can't cover.
The Bible, who was 9 feet 9 inches tall, and when he was about to go to war.
Right. So again, she's talking a little bit about Goliath there, giving them a little insight. So we know this is the structure. So we go to the story. Now, I intentionally left something out here. So I'm going to play it.
I now see David by Saul tent. David, what is David doing here? I don't know. What's he coming there? David, what are you doing here? Why aren't you home and tending to the sheep? Well, I heard the words of this one.
All right. So again, I just want to give you some insight here. So on the day itself, it was a bit challenging. God knows we planned. But we had to shoot two things on that day. We had to shoot Family Life, and we had to shoot David and Goliath, and we gave it the afternoon. Now, the time we started to shoot this, though, was after 4, close to 4 o'clock. And again, we know it light and all these things. So all my plans, oh my, wow, it was a bit challenging. And I, again, was a bit disappointed with the amount of shots that I had. You need to give in, you can't just shoot. Let me show you an example of something quickly. This is the original tape. This is how sometimes amateur filmmakers, we shoot things. I did this in the beginning too.
David, what are you doing here?
So we could get a wide of everybody. He come in the shot, we shipping everybody, and we allow everything. But when you look at professional films, you guide the viewer. The viewer now wants to see David. We just saw both of them. And we want to see David now. So you need to have coverage of David. But if the editor doesn't have that shot, then you just can't show it. You're just going to have to stay with his wife. And this is the importance of planning. You need to know in advance the shots that you want. So there's something called a shot list. And you plan it out. You plan it out. In your mind, you could write it down. For a lot of us, when we start, you need writing. Continue, write it down. This is what I want. I want to get a shot, reverse shot, reaction shot. If there's something where you spoke about B-roll, sometimes you need to get that. Inserts. Inserts are like if somebody's looking, hey, what's that over there? You cut to it and you show the item. That's an insert. You make sure you have that footage, but if it's not there, it's not there, right? The editor, we can't work magic if the material doesn't exist, right? But one major thing, but before I go to that major thing, I want to show you something. All right, where is it? Right, so there's effects, all right. So this is the footage. Now, because this is a cinema stuff, we do different things to treat the footage. Now, we have culturally become, and again, I just don't want you to do this for doing sake, but it's a style, right? We have culturally letterboxing. Letterboxing gives the viewer, and again, if you notice before with Peggy, Ella Green, did we do any letterboxing? No. But when we're going into movie mode, we switch it. We go letterbox. Why? We inform, hey, this is something cinematic. Next thing we do, we color grade differently. This is the original color. Why? This color looks nice. You may say that looks nice, but it looks, how to put it, TV-ish. It looks live. We don't want it to look live. We want it to look that people engrossed. It's a certain time. We give it dull tones because why we're going back in time. And again, color informs that. Muted tones. So when you add that back, again, and this is something you learn over time. Again, don't get too caught up. Over time, it's a lot of effort, but all these things add up for the end result. All these little things. Another major thing that is missing.
I now see David by soul text. Dave.
It's sound design. So again, it's multiple microphones here. These individuals are wearing microphones. Unfortunately, you can see them because again, we're working with limited budgets, so no budgets. So individuals, we don't have a dedicated person holding up a boom microphone, turning and twisting. So again, we said, you know what, suspension of belief, we'll allow persons to have it. Right? So you are seeing the microphones. Again, set design, we choose locations, individuals, a lot of us no budget, so it's bed sheets these individuals wear. Try to give them that sense of, you know, it's back then. These are the challenges we have. But I'm coming back to some design, and I want to share a video with you. I found it funny. This is where it's importance of music. The importance of music. And I want to share this video with you. Hold on. Let me see if we can get this. Stop sharing, and I want to share another one. Now, right. Are you all seeing this video? You all seeing this video, right?
Yeah.
All right. So this is just a scene. I saw this video and I found it very fun and funny as a filmmaker. This is a video scene of, I think this is Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris. We know this scene. I don't know if anybody you all have ever seen this scene. There's a fight scene. So they're taking out their clothes to fight, right? But listen to the music that they underlay and see how it changes the mood of everything. All right. The original score for that was not that. The original score for that was not that, right? But we see how music can change the mood of a piece of footage. This was never, the director never thought that, hey, this is an epic scene. Bruce Lee, you understand? Chuck Norris, they're going to fight. They're taking off their clothes. But look how music changed everything. Music has changed everything. Is this? Bruce Lee now. Right? This is the power. This is the power of music. This is the power of scoring. To guide
but the importance of choosing the right, the power of choosing the right music, you know.
Yes, yes, yes.
And being intentional. It's all about being intentional.
Right. Let me see if I get back to the editing. Right. So this is this now. So listen to this. This is him just sharpening a blade.
I now see David by soul text.
Right. But listen to it now with the scope. All right. They're trying to get this, Right. So.
Listen up to hear what happens.
I now see David by soul text.
David, what is David doing here?
Look, he coming there.
David, what are you doing here? Why aren't you home and tending to the sheep?
Well, I heard the words of this.
All right. So we're seeing here how sound is helping guide the viewer's emotion. You are informing them without telling them how to feel. This is something epic, right? This is something epic. I'm not going to put playful music here anymore. The playful music was before with Elder Green, when Elder Green was talking to the kids and stuff, right? So that the playful music is there. Likewise, and we can even bring this over into sermons when they're preaching and stuff, when they're coming down and they're making their appeal and stuff. The choice of tones, the choice of music, all this informs the viewer subliminally how to feel. How to feel. When you play familiar tones to them, you know, all to Jesus, I surrender, and the musician is playing that softly in the background. It informs them when you're making appeals. This is the power of music. And as as filmmakers, that's what we are using. We are using these tools to better convey the message. So we are helping guide them. I'm going to show you later on the power of sound too. All right, so we're seeing here that they're having a conversation.
Came and took alarm from my flock. So I decided.
Now look at the line here. Again, the music is not dominating. What's important is what he is saying. But what the music is doing is underscoring the emotion at that time in the sequence.
To follow him, and I delivered the lamb from his mouth. And when he rose up to me, I caught him by the hair and I killed him. And this uncircumcised Philistine will be.
Now, if you take away that music, I'm telling you plainly, the performances aren't that great sometimes. But you know what helps everything? Because these guys are not professionals. But you know what? Music can help them. We are doing our best to help the performances. It can seem that way.
For the lion, he will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine. And by his strength, I will slay this giant.
Now, I want you to watch here. Watch here carefully. Yes, Stephan, and you want to say something?
This just brings me back to what I said last Sunday and what I say often when I'm teaching. Half of your viewing experience is what you hear. So, according to Kivonne, the acting mightn't be as stellar as you would have liked it to be all the time, but depending on the scoring that you put to complement it, the music and the dramatic effects and different things, it will help propel the narrative. It will help guide the emotions and the feelings that people would have while being engaged with the footage.
Definitely. So we're moving on here. Right, so
This dead of a man.
right. So you notice something visually. Maybe you're not seeing it. Maybe you could go back on YouTube and watch it sometime. But all these things are subtle things that we are doing to help guide emotion. I changed the coloration from a bit muted to now to change into a tone of red. So again, that is complemented first also with the music. So it's the music and the coloration. Because the turn by itself with all those things, if you mute it, it looks strange. Why is this guy's turning again so scared or whatever? Let me change up Kivonne's voice a bit too. Let me show you something. And I'm going to show you something after.
Not a man. Is there not one man? Send him out, and I will fight with him. 40 days. I stood here, and not one. And your God, your fury God.
Now you notice changing in shot sizes. First we started wide. Look at how many shots. And I want you to understand this. This is not just one shot. This is him here. We got and it's intentional that we left David here. You notice you're seeing an outline of David here. You seeing it? Why? It's an over the shoulder, we call that. And we get to see the characters. Goliath is standing on something. We're trying to make him look, watch how tall he is. So we try to shoot at different angles to ensure and emphasize certain things. All right? Waiting for this to save. My auto save. All right, cool. So we go on there. Look at this. We got a close-up on him. So these actors are repeating their performances multiple times. So that's great for the editor. We have multiple takes to try and say, okay, maybe Kivonne didn't see it. He made a slip here or this or that, or this is the best one. Because our job when you sit down on the editing table, you have the job to now say, okay, I can take it. Sometimes this take, they might say, no, do it all over. But you know what? Kivonne did his best performance there. So I can take it and actually use it. All right? So this is it. Look at this. Reaction shots. Sometimes we forget those things. Why is this shot important? To show that he's scared. So he's scared. Right? We're trying to show that. These two, they're worried.
And your God, your fury God.
Right? We're trying to show that. Kivonne is speaking here. Goliath. But I want to show you something here now. This is Kivonne without the effects.
God, your fury God. Let him come.
Now, again, you hear how his voice is singing? When I was editing this, I sat down and I said, you know what? I'm not getting scared of Kivonne there, man. This Goliath, I need to add something to it. So you can't go over the top. So I added a little something.
Let him come. My son will take care of him, you big cowards. Come on!
So again, it sounds a little more scary, a little more dramatic. That, you know what? Hey, this is intimidating, his voice. Sometimes we can add a little more depth. In David's voice, intentionally, I lowered the bass a bit. All right. Now, soon enough, again, all these things you're going to learn over time. You're going to better your craft and you're going to learn over the time. But understand these things are intentional. It's big teams Hollywood working with. We don't have big teams, you know. So we try our best to learn over a period of time.
Fight anyone, you said. The poet king is in his tent. Where is he? Is there not one man?
So we plan all these things. This is blocking. We wanted to show separation, that David himself is going to try. Now, again, this wasn't part of the plan. Reason being because we had a lot more shots we wanted to do, but remember, we ran out of time. So in essence, because I knew the material, we said we had to show that David alone is standing. So we had to show him pulling aside, pulling away. So as a filmmaker, you need to take the stories and understand the stories. So on the day, you could say, okay, if this is not working, I need to be able to adapt the material, but not miss the essence. And make sure that you have enough coverage for the editor.
I will fight him. No, David, no.
So even that dialogue there, no, David, no. We forgot that. This was another time I took it and I inserted that, but these guys are blurred behind. So it was this, one of David's brothers saying that this was not said on the day. I had the actor saying that at a different time. So he said it at a different time and we added that in.
One man in Israel.
I will fight him. No, David, no. I will fight you.
What? Is that the best you have? Is that the man? He's a book.
And I hope you notice how the music is building too. It's epic, right?
I am Goliath, the champion of the heart.
So again, reaction shots. This was another reaction shot that we have. We just choose to insert it at this time. I made them do multiple reaction shots on the day. So again, we as editors, we have enough coverage. I have enough choices. Of course, you would want more. As an editor, you're going to sit down, you're going to ask for more and more.
Come to me, boy. Come to me now.
Right. So like this, I wanted this in slow motion. So this would have been epic. I was seeing this in my mind. But we didn't have enough time. I don't know if you all noticed it, but you wouldn't notice it now. But light was going, it was getting dark. We were in the valley of Lupino. So constantly, again, understanding your gear, we had to be shifting the ISO, sensitivity of the camera, to be able to capture. Because you know what, too? We didn't expect to be shooting so late, so we didn't work with any lights, right? We didn't work with any lights. So we had to, even me in post, I had to be changing coloration, adding lighting, right? So it's dark. Look at it there without the lighting. So you have to add a little more brightness, everything, right?
You come to me.
Listen how the music is building now. Because before it was scary. You know, hey, David. But now this is the hero shot. This is the hero shot. This is David standing up to him. So you need to shoot differently.
With sword and with spear and with shield.
Yeah, the music building up.
I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, whom you have defied. He will deliver you into my hands, and I will kill you and take your head. And the body of your Philistines, I will feed them to the fowl of the air and to the beasts of the field.
My head? You will take my head? You foolish child? You should be home.
I am not afraid of you. What of it?
So that zoom too. Why are those zooms important? Again, emphasizing. We are telling, hey, we're focusing on David. You add all these things. You can add some of these things in post. That's why people sometimes shoot in 4K. You come down, so when it's time to zoom, you can actually zoom in a bit. All right? So all those things we add in post. That wasn't done live. So you add these little things for dramatic effect, to emphasize. So it's the music, it's editing, it's color, it's sound design, it's ensuring that you capture it well. All these things come together. If this was a wide shot, would this make sense? No, you're going to be too wide. We want to see David's emotion, that he's standing up against the Goliath. So we want to see his emotion. And again, eyes are so important. So he's looking towards Goliath.
What of it, God? Deliver this uncircumcised Philistine into my hands today.
Let's fight.
Again, working with low budgets, no budgets, understanding its children, all these things. We couldn't do much more, right? We had Brother Thomas, he fell on a, so you're going to see it here? He fell on a bed, a blob bed. But that thud is not the thud of the blob bed. That's a sound effect. That's a sound effect we add there. And if I mute it, It doesn't sound, his third doesn't.
Let's fight.
So that's impact, that's not the third. I think the third is here. Yeah. Yeah, I still added a drum. So I add a drum and a third, you know, so again, to underscore the point that he hit the ground. So sound has told the viewer, he has hit the ground, but he has really hit a pillow type kind of thing is a blob bed where he was cushioned, right? And I want to show you the power of going to black sometimes. And this is more, we never showed that his head was cut off, but look how impactful this is. Maybe a little too impactful for children, but hey. Right? We never showed that. But because we cut to black, you showed it, whoa, something went on there. We never told the children what happened, and Peggy doesn't speak to it. So you leave it. And again, I left some black space here. Why I leave some black space? You wanted to linger a little bit in. Wow. So that's timing, that's tempo. That's the pace of which you're editing. Sometimes you leave room to allow, right?
Wow.
With this one too, we choose with Elder Green to stay off screen before we start.
Wow.
Of course, I wish it was smoother. That's the good thing about getting better tripods. So again,
what an experience David had. Nobody trusted David. King Saul gave him the...
Right? So again, Peggy would have done this already. Elder Green would have done this already. She would have recorded all these things. You come back. She had different options as an editor. We had multiple takes. Right? Branding again comes in place here because at the end, viewers view at different times. You want to, again, put up a lower third so individuals know that this is Elder Green. That's the name, Auntie Peggy. Right? And then we go to the end.
Bye, boys and girls.
So the music again is repeated at the end, and you notice that. So this is the same music we used in the beginning.
Remember.
This is the one here.
Capybaras are very intelligent and trainable.
So we notice that the music is being repeated. Music is being repeated because again, we are building a story. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's a children's corner. So there's branding in the middle, Elder Green. So there's a pattern for your viewers to see. And this is what you do when you build segments. People like familiarity, but yet you must be creative inside. So the inside is different, but the basic building blocks are there, which is the story elements, right? The internal story, we always have, again, a little nature feature. You can do different things. That's what I'm saying. There are different ways of doing things. But again, you must be intentional. You must be guided by, there must be a beginning, middle, end. Even with our stories, we try not to make them too long because we know the attention spans. We know the limitations of technology, the amount of editing you're going to have to do. And this is just, this story was one of our shortest stories. In total, this was about 9 minutes. But the actual story itself was 5 minutes. And that took the most time. That almost took about 4 hours. And then you're talking about another set of days editing this, right? So again, I just want to say, it may seem intimidating. We haven't gotten the best as yet because we're all working with limited budgets. But the nice thing about filmmaking, it's scalable. The nice thing about filmmaking, it's something that has been democratized because we all have access to information. We all have access to technology, right? So before we open up for finally to questions, I know we're here. I hope you all were blessed. This is just a quick insight into some of the things. Stephan, you want to say anything before we open up for questions?
Just basically, again, underscoring the fact that you have to be intentional. If it is we didn't plan and have an idea as to what we were going to do, we would not know what shots we needed. And even with that, you see the shot, the voice, no, David, no, was missed out. And we were able to capture it and insert it. So you have to have an idea as to the acts in your story. If it's a 3-act, beginning, middle, end, you have to know who is the antagonist, protagonist, who is the star, that will be the protagonist. and the antagonist being the person who is the one causing the drama or causing the bacchanal or whatever the case might be. You want to know, well, all right, you're able to have your stuff on your timeline. You have different video editing software, whichever one you choose to work with. If you're on a Mac, it might be Final Cut, or it could very well be the Adobe suite as well. It could be Blackmagic. It could be a range of different things. But whatever you choose to edit on, you want to be able to know what format you're exporting it to, what it's going to be played on. If it is what it's going to be played on, could take this particular format. You have to budget for export time. You have to budget for rendering time. The more layers you choose to add, be it color correction, be it audio, different things, increase your time for export. So don't wait until Friday evening to want to edit down something for Sabbath morning, and then your machine's slow and you have a great disappointment like 1844.
More effects you add, the color, these things are very complicated.
You thought it would have been able to export and show in time when woe is you. It takes a long time to export. And then when you export it, now you have to study the time it would take to transfer from your hard drive to the drive at church. So all these are different elements that you cannot forget to budget for, because you have a lot of different elements. So you want to make sure your machine have good specs. You want to make sure you have that redundancy in your system where you have backups and things stored, and if you could export it and send it via large file sharing platforms like MyAirBridge, which you could transfer up to 20 gigs at a point in time. You could open up multiple windows and transfer multiple files, so you have it at the church already. Different things. You have to put fail-safe mechanisms in place so that when it comes to airing the footage, you don't have a great disappointment because it ain't available to show. Right? I don't know if Kivonne want to say anything to those.
All right. So I know time is spent. So we just want to open up for a few questions. Please, ask your questions. Ask away. I know it can seem intimidating. Anyone has any question? Yes, Mr. Beckles?
Yes, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Very interesting, very good presentation. What I observed with the video that you had there, the music score for the team. I realized that according to the type of the segments or the type of segments in the areas in the music in the video, the music score would have been subtled when it had the battle with David and Goliath. The music went up a bit. But what I observed with Goliath, his voice was a bit more gravel, so that it shows that of his structure, because it complements his structure then. The tall person, and when you observe the voice was a bit gravel to identify his, he was a tall person. So I must commend you guys for that, well executed.
Again, intentional. You have to be intentional. You have to think about, how do I
better tell the story?
How do I present this character? What do I do to magnify the persona, the image, or craft this person to be viewed how I want them, or how the story dictates that they should be viewed? So Kivonne is naturally a tall guy.
Yes.
If you think about the height of Goliath, we put a bench and intentionally use camera angles looking up at him to show that, this fella has a massive stature. So you have to very well be intentional. So somebody of that size, somebody who is a violent warrior, a warrior who might very well even be demon possessed in some regard, or just a menace to the environment, the surrounding nations and whatever. You now have to think, how can I tweak and modify his voice to come across as true to the fact as the Bible would have had it? And be creative and again, be intentional.
Thank you. Well done.
Right. Yeah. And again, coming back to this whole thing, it's it's not just one thing. I hope you're getting that. It's not just one thing. It's everything coming together to better this story. So it's the sum total of the little things added up together. Because at the end of the day, the viewer is not going to say, wow, boy, that lighting, or wow, boy, this. All they will see is that, wow, this story was well told. And that's what you want. You want them to get the message. You want them to feel that emotion. Through this two-dimensional screen that they are looking at, you want them to feel that story. You want them to empathize with David. You want them to be intimidated by Goliath. So how can I better use these tools? Camera, sound design, again, to better set dressing. You know, again, if we have bigger budgets, we could have gotten, you know, realistic clothing. But again, we work with what we have, and we better tell the story, right? We better tell the story.
That is one of the things that we didn't talk to as far as wardrobe and the importance of wardrobe, but that is critically important in shooting. If it is something like this, you want to date it to feel real to the time. So we can have Goliath or David come in a jersey and a jeans with a cell phone in the hand. You know,
and again, power lines in the background. Some of the challenges we're gonna have,
vehicles in the shot,
vehicles passing. You're hearing horns popping, or alarms. I remember one of them. It was a great take. I think it was for Abraham. It was a great take. It was, we were coming down from the trees and we were panning down, and somebody passed and they pop up. I said, "Oh gosh, boy, hey, how I could come?"
On simple thing.
Yeah. So what I did, I put a cow. You know, the sound of a cow, you know, moo, you know, you just put that sound effect and it cover it. And like, okay, cool. The cows were around back then, so you put the cow, so the cow covered it. So you need to choose. You have choices. You have choices. Again, you remember what you're doing. It might seem like it's a lot of work, but it is a lot of work for the end result, which is the individuals to gain a blessing. Simple things from wardrobe. When your performers coming, they must reflect the God. I'm talking about humility. You need to have that conversation with your singers. When the preachers, they need to know the type of things that they're coming to do. Again, we had pathfinders and they were preaching on the outside. So it's important for them to bring their uniform, certain types of uniform. They instructed us that things had to be a certain way. So again, you want to make sure that that is done well. All right? That is captured well.
Yeah,
right?
One thing I want to mention as well that critically important, I know time fast spent, and we'll take a couple questions before we close, is continuity. Pre-production, especially in the dramas and those things, is really, really, really important to have somebody watching the script. If you don't have a script, still watching at what people have on. Somebody might come with a watch for one take. They might not have on the watch for the next take. Somebody might be playing a scene where there's supposed to be a single mother or a person who is looking for a husband, and they're in the church and they're praying and asking God, Lord, why me? But they have on a wedding ring because they're married in real life, and they get to take with a wedding ring on. So you have to be very, very intentional,
observant,
and very observant. If it is you're unmicing this person for this particular scene to mic up another person, and you're not in a position where you're hiding the mics, you want to make sure you try to put back the mic in the same location. You don't have it on this color, and this take it on the next color, and the next take it in the middle on the next take. You know, so you want to be very, very mindful with continuity. If somebody under jersey showing in this particular thing, but then the next time they come, they walk with the jersey, but they have on a V-neck instead. So so you want to be very, very mindful of detail and sticking to little details to make sure the fan in the shot, the fan, they have one fan in the house, so they move the fan from the living room to the bedroom, and when you come back to shoot, it's because the fan not there, and then the first take the fan there, the next take the fan absent. Little things. So you have a real pre-annex got to give you a sharp and a keen eye for detail and the little details, because it have filmmakers who watching your stuff, it have lay persons who watching your stuff, and it will stand out to them. And again, what you don't want is distractions. You don't want somebody now losing the trend of thought, losing the narrative, the story, and what ain't that fun day in that last scene? Somebody going on a wedding this weekend, so they go on and they do up the hair for the wedding, and but we come in to shoot. Why you do your hair that? And that scene from last week, your hair wasn't like that. Somebody going to take a mark the beard, the shape of the beard complete. Different little things. You have to be very intentional in talking to them. For the next few weeks, maintain your order, maintain your style, maintain this.
Definitely.
We have to be fluid with it, you know?
So guys, again, it's a lot of information. I know it's a lot of information. Do we have any questions as we end? You know, this is something that is going to take over time. But again, as we said, take your time, and with God, all things are possible. We are working with no budgets. We are working with limited technology. But once God knows that you want to give him your best, and you do your research, you plan, you try, sometimes it wouldn't come out the best. You know, there are things that Stephan and I, you know, we're not too pleased with certain things, but at the end of the day, we give our best to the master. And that's the best people. This was one, there's a reason why I showed you this particular one. Stephan knew my disappointment in this one. We had planned so much, and we didn't have enough time.
He had the kind of
I didn't want to even edit it because I'm like, I didn't have enough. But you know what? I prayed about it. I said, God, we need to find a story in all the footage that we shot. And when we went back and I sat down there, I called him and I said, bro, we have a story. I'm going to sit down. And when you add the music, to me, this is the one that I like the most because God knows. God knows that a lot of effort went into it. It was challenging, it was it, but God blesses our efforts. He does. This wasn't for a lack of preparation. I hope you understand that. This wasn't for a lack of preparation because he knew that we were prepared, but challenges came. But we pressed on. And so too, you're going to have, not all the time you're going to get it right. Not all the time you're going to get it right. And we have on our side God, as I said before. He's going to bless your effort. Sometimes strange things are going to happen. Like, you know what? Hey, we can do this. Ideas are going to come in your head. And you have to know that it's not you dropping those ideas. It's God dropping those ideas there. You're right?
Sure to give the glory where it belongs and stay humble in the midst of it.
You know, so again, always, as we said from the get-go, think of your audience. Think of how they are going to experience it. And you edit that way. You edit that way. How are they going to be blessed? Sometimes things are a bit too long. Talking is a bit too much. And you spend so much time in shooting this. And because you shot it, you feel that you need to have it in. But think of the viewer. This is too long. This is too long. And sometimes that's why they call it the chopping block. That's why they have a blade. It's called cutting. We cut it out. That's what we're there because it doesn't progress the story. So sometimes you're going to have to make the tough decision and progress the story. All right, so I see we're running out of time. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Sunday evenings, time for family. All right, so again, before we end, any questions? Any questions before we end? All right, so Stephan, I think we did our job. We did it. All right, so God be praised. God be praised. We are looking forward to next week when we would have Clean, I believe, with us and post-production sound. Sound, as you realize, there are so many layers. We're talking about lighting. We're talking about camera work. We're talking about scripting. We are talking about pre-production. And now we're going to talk about post-production audio, right? So Piana is going to come and give us some insight. I'm looking forward, as many of us, I know we are, all right? I saw somebody state here that they've seen some of these mistakes in big budget movies. Yes, it happens. Because that's so many things are happening.
There's humans on big budget movies.
But we're going to ask God to give us that discernment so we can see it. We can see it. Sometimes somebody drinking a glass of water in one scene and it's full, it empty, it full, it empty, it half. Different shots because the editor is taken from different things, right? So on set, you could eliminate that problem. You try, hey, you had that glass was at this level. Stephan for us is that stickler for detail. You know, you say, hey, you need to put back that glass right there. You need to put it back right there. And that's attention to detail. You need to have that. Because it will give us, the editors, me when I'm home and I'm like, oh gosh, why? This was a good take, but I can't use it because it's distracting. Right?
Yeah.
All right,
guys.
So everyone, all right, so Pastor, you're back on? Yeah, that's it for us. Huh?
Thank you so much, guys. Indeed, you know, all you're speaking about today, we have many of our persons on here right now. Sean and Brother King, and Carla, Gilroy, you know, we were Faith at church today doing this recording, and
nice.
Yeah, many of the things you spoke about, you know, we would have experienced. I missed quite a bit, but I'm sure that we got lots.
That's the best way to learn, Pastor. That's the best way to learn. Just do it.
I think Faith indicated he spoke about the recording. They did a whole set and then realized that the
They didn't hit record.
It wasn't happening, so they had to do it again. You know, so you learn and you know, okay, well, we're not gonna make these mistakes again as well. Hopefully, as we move on. So again, we really thank you for you guys for being here. I know for Kivonne, this has been like 3 weeks straight. This is the fourth week, 4 weeks straight for Kivonne, and Stephan, 2 weeks. Thank you guys so much for being here. Really, really appreciate it.
That's good, man.
Yeah, and you guys are doing a really, really, really good job, and we appreciate it. Really, this is ministry. And for all those who joined us this afternoon again, thank you so much for being here. I will, as always, make the link available to you guys through your leaders and through the contacts I have. And we are on again next week, as Kivonne said, with Cleon. And we're looking at audio. And we're hoping, guys, we're really hoping, I spoke to Kevin about this already, we're actually hoping to take this and make this into something more official when we're finished. We're working with the university to kind of create this course as an official certificate program. Nice. And we'll keep you guys posted as to how that's going closer to the end of the training series. We'll give you more information. Hopefully by then we'll have worked on it with all our facilitators. So this is it's gonna be great. God is gonna do good things coming from this. Yes, Walvis is the name. Yes, you got it. You're getting it free. You're getting it free. I want to thank these guys because they're giving it to us free.
In Jesus' name, man.
Yes, amen. Jesus paid it all, my brother. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So, guys, have a great evening. Thank you again, and we will definitely keep in touch. And until next week, be safe. Have a great evening. Blessings to you and your family. Stay safe, and may God bless you, keep you. May we continue to minister for Him as we use our talents and our abilities to forward the gospel in this time. Thank you. Amen. Have a great evening, everybody. Let's pray before we close. Father, thank you so much again. Another great evening. Thank you for our facilitators, Kivonne and Stephan, for just being here with us. A great sacrifice, time that could have been spent with family, editing, recording, doing so many other things. But they're here with us this evening, and Lord, we say thank you. Thank you for the abilities you've given them, and they could have taken all of this that they know and this ability and just used it for the world and just use it for their own glory, but they're using it to give you the glory. And we ask, Lord, you continue to bless them, continue to inspire them as they use the media to witness to so many of us and to the world. We thank you for all our participants here today. I pray, Lord, that we'll continue to be inspired through your Spirit to just give you our best, to just give of our best to the Master, knowing, Lord, that time is short. And even as we go into this new area, really using the technology, using the digital space, Lord, I pray that would understand that this is only for a limited time, and will capitalize now, Father, not wasting any more time, but using this space to proclaim the gospel. So be with each person here, be with family, be with our churches, with our tech team, with our leaderships, as we discuss and as we take back this information. Father, their minds will be open and they will be receptive to what we are hoping to do, and that is using this platform and these platforms to bring your gospel across the world. So bless us again, keep us. May we have a great week in you, and may we always be found in your will and in your purpose for our lives. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen again.
Thank you again, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Guys, it was nice. Until next Sunday, please, God. Enjoy the week and be safe.
Good. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Well done.
Hey. Clear.
Bye.
All right, man. Blessings.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Take care, man.
Yes, guys.
Remy.
Sorry, I was very late. Very, very late.
All right,
It was good. God is good.
We'll send you the recording.
No problem. No problem. Revision is on.
No problem, man. Take care. Bye.
Remy, take care.
You too, Steve. Later.